life was so proudly we hailed at the twilight as gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular amongst birds singing out, yeah, through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Welcome to Inside the Gamecocks, the morning show. Presented by the Barn Dominion Company and Resto Pros of the Midlands. Part of the Chief Sports Network. Go Gamecocks!
He'll be fire on the mountain.
That's a win! Ball is way out of here.
5 consecutive home runs for Carolina.
It is good. It's gone.
He's in. Touchdown. Williams with a throw to the cup.
He's going to score. It's a walk-off.
Touchdown, South Carolina.
All right, greetings and good morning. Welcome aboard. Welcome home inside the Gamecocks, the morning show built by the Barn Co. and presented by our friends at Resto Pros. There when you need them, Resto Pros of the Midlands, Resto Pros Midlands SC.com. Resto Pros is Gamecock owned and they are Gamecock operated. So are our friends at the Barn Co. here in the Carolinas. If you would like to build your dream home, you can do it today or tomorrow or next month or whenever it is. If you head to the barndoco.com, they are also Gamecock owned and Gamecock operated. The barndoco.com, one of the nation's best builders. We'll have Mike here in just a moment, and coming up at 11 o'clock this morning, Landon Powell will join us. Landon is the head coach at North Greenville. They are getting set for the Division II postseason. The tournament, the selection Sunday is coming up this Sunday, and they bowed out a little early of the Conference Carolinas tournament this past weekend, but they are 43-13 overall on the season, and they've got, once again, another chance to go win a national championship. So we'll talk to Landon here in just a little while about a lot of that, and we'll mix in some other baseball stuff with him. And certainly looking forward. We haven't had Landon on, I think, since opening day for the Gamecocks back in February when we were up top at Founders Park. So excited for LP. No John Strickland today. John will be out today, but we're going to try to get him back in a little bit later on in the week. if we can do that. We've got some football to get to as well. Now we've got a drive around the SEC. We'll talk about Paul Maneri and the Gamecock baseball program. And then also today begins the 2025 SEC women's softball tournament. Of course, it's softball, so naturally, I guess that didn't really need to elaborate that it was the women's tournament. But Kentucky and Georgia will play at 1 o'clock today in the first game. Now, this is being played in Athens. That is a 12-13 matchup in that ball game. And then you got Missouri and Ole Miss coming up today at 4 o'clock. And then tonight, you got a rivalry game. They did not play in the regular season. Auburn and Alabama. How about that? Auburn and Alabama will play in Game 3 tonight of the first round of the SEC Women's Tournament. The Gamecocks play tomorrow night. It is scheduled for 8 o'clock, and they'll get the winner of the Tide and the Tigers. That will be the fourth game of the day. One matchup is already set tomorrow. It's 11 a.m. That is LSU and Mississippi State in an 8-9 matchup. Arkansas gets the winner of Kentucky and Georgia. Florida gets the winner of Ole Miss and Missouri. And then, of course, the Gamecocks will be the late game. If they are able to advance out of the second round of the tournament, they will face second-seeded Texas A&M in the quarterfinals on Thursday night in Athens. They have not played the Aggies this season, so this all kind of falls in line with some of what we were talking about yesterday. For what it's worth, Brad Muller will be here tomorrow as well to give us a little bit more on Carolina softball, and we'll talk about their chances of becoming a top 8 national seed and all that type of stuff. But if you want something to watch today, you've got it. The SEC Network has all of these games. It will move over to ESPN2 in the semifinals on Friday, and then the championship game will be played on Saturday at 5 o'clock, and that will be on ESPN. As for Carolina baseball, look, Paul Maneri yesterday, hat tip to Jay Phillips for asking the tough questions in his weekly appearance on 107.5 The Game. So, big time credit to Jay for asking the question, about his future. It's quite frankly not easy to do that, even though a lot of people think that it is. And Paul Maneri stated, no, he's here. He came to win championships. I know that comment probably didn't resonate very well with some people, but I don't really know what you want him to say. I mean, he's Paul Maneri is not going to, on a radio interview on a Monday afternoon when all this hoopla is going on, decide to let everybody know, I hadn't really made a decision yet. That's not really how this works. So the university did also say, look, we're not making any crazy decisions until the end of the year. Now, on that note, Mike, you can read a little bit into that, because sometimes when schools issue statements or they have a spokesperson say something maybe off the record or whatever the case may be, you can get the bold, he's our head coach, we're not doing anything, he's going to be here forever, point blank, period, the end. And then you can also get kind of what you got yesterday, which is, well, we're not making any brash decisions until the end of the year. So I do understand why fans might hear that and they go, okay, so the future is kind of unsettled with Paul Maneri at South Carolina for whatever reason it may be, whether it's his choice or someone else's choice or whatever. I don't know the answer to that, but so I can understand why people would read into that a little bit. But there was enough smoke going on out there for somebody at the University of South Carolina to say, yeah, we're not talking about this right now, and any major decisions that are made will be at the end of the season. Good morning, my man.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Good.
Happy 6 de Mayo.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, once again, we had a little problem logging on, but we're all good now. Looking forward to talking to Landon. Was he top of the 11 o'clock hour?
Top of 11. Yep. Coming up at 11.
Yeah. Man, Landon was one hell of a player.
Oh,
really was.
Woo.
I have a baseball. It's called the three-peat ball in my man cave, and it's the 5 Gamecock players and Coach Tanner who all signed it. They were a member. These were the Fab 5 that were a member of the 2002, 2003, 2004 World Series.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Landon Powell was a starter on all of those teams. Just a unbelievable player, switch hitting catcher, first round draft pick. I just remember those bus rides and listening to Landon talk to players. And he was already like an encyclopedia way ahead of his years at like 19. I mean, just even as a freshman, like a lot of freshmen, Drew Meyer included, he took some crap from the veterans. Oh, here's the big time catcher. Here's the guy who thought he had leverage and should be drafted out of high school and blah, 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 blah. Here comes the natural. There was a lot of that type of stuff. I saw Drew take it in stride, and Landon did too. Like, you weren't going to rattle Landon Powell's father was an umpire. But man, he meant so much to that stretch. And I was looking it up, Jamie, and I don't want to go too far off topic because I know you want to get to what you just talked to with the presser and everything. But the 5 years, 2000 to 2005, is one of the most historic runs in the history of college baseball. Let me read this to you.
Mm-hmm.
From 2000 to 2004, South Carolina won more games than any other Division I baseball program in the country. They won 260. They were 260 and 87. So what is that, 52 wins a year? That was the average, 52.
Yeah,
40 is considered a great year. For 5 years, Carolina averaged 52 wins a season. What else did that include? 5 super regionals. I mean, you woke up in the morning and you just knew it's Carolina baseball. That's going to be a super regional.
Right.
5 super regionals, 3 World Series, a 99 and 50 SEC record. That's never going to be done in a 5-year stretch again. 3 SEC championships, 2 regular season, 2000, 2002, 1 SEC tournament. Yes, this program does have an SEC tournament championship, 2004, and 3 SEC Eastern Division titles. So Landon was around for most of that.
Right.
And just look, I know a lot of people kind of know this, although there's a new generation that think Gamecock baseball started with 2010. And then there's some people that are like, I remember when it wasn't great before Ray got here as the head coach for much of the 1990s and the late 80s. But I was looking at that, like, even though I lived it, even some of those numbers, I was like, damn, that was really good.
Oh,
that was
man.
really, really good. So
yeah, the consistency, you mentioned the wins and how and everything that they did, and the staff was the same. The only new piece in 2004 was Monty. Monty wasn't there in 02 and 03, but he was there in 04 when they went to Omaha. And that's one of the things that's been an issue with this program for the last 8 years or so. It's been the lack of consistency on staff. You think about all the guys that have been in this program since Chad Holbrook left. It's a lot. I mean, you went from Kingston to Maneri. That's 2 head coaches, but I mean, Coach Lake has been on staff. They had obviously Monty now has been here for 3 years. They had Skylar Meade as a pitching coach. Justin Parker is a pitching coach. Matt Williams is a pitching coach. Now you got a 4th one in Terry Rooney. You had Chad Kaye. He was one of their hitting coaches that was in here. You had Joey Holcomb, who came down from Campbell. That's a lot. That's a lot of staff turnover. Wingo was on staff at South Carolina. You think about all that. That's a lot of different voices. It's hard to maintain some sort of consistency when your coaching staff isn't. You've got a new guy every year in some spot. And to be honest with you, I think that's a part of the contribution to why Carolina baseball has been on such a roller coaster for the last almost decade now. Yeah,
I got a lot of reaction from our conversation on the show yesterday, Jamie. I know you did as well. I pride myself. I'm not a hot take artist. There's a lot of nuance here. There just is. And we all have relationships, you and I in particular, with a lot of people surrounding this program. So I'm not sitting here and telling people how to feel, how to not feel. The facts are the facts. I deal in facts. The program where it is now compared to, again, 15 consecutive NCAA tournaments from 2000 to 2014. And then Chad misses 2 out of 3. That led to his demise. Mark Kingston misses 2. And then last year, I thought it was a must. He had to get to a super to maintain his job. They lay an egg in the regional round. He's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And now Paul Maneri clearly is not going to make a regional in his first year. I'm convinced now, if you miss it 2 out of your first 5 years as the head coach in Columbia, you're gone. You're gone. And if you don't make it to Omaha in your first 3 or 4 years, the fans will want you gone, even if the AD doesn't. And we don't know enough about Donati. Does he have an itchy trigger finger? Does he want to put his stamp all over the pro? We don't know. We don't know what we don't know. But I got a lot of response, and there's a lot of people that are visibly and audibly upset. And then you have some like former players. I was surprised by this. I've known Garris Gaunt since he arrived on campus. Garris can be very gruff.
Yeah.
And I don't talk to Garris on a regular basis, but we're social media friends. And he posted something yesterday I thought was interesting. He said, quote, Paul Maneri is staying, ! His work isn't done. Be true fans and stay on board until the end. It's been rocky. I bleed garnet and black and believe in the process. We will be back. All the great ones are. And a number of former players kind of commented on that and like that and so on and so forth. I don't know what any of that means. I know for a lot of fans who are just upset, you don't care. Like you want them gone, and you like the hire. I mean, we didn't have a whole lot of these people trashing the hire when it was made.
No.
But how quickly it turned into what's the buyout? It's the nature of the beast. If you take this job, and it's not for everybody. There are some coaches like, let's go back to the cat in Louisville. A lot of people have asked, why hasn't he taken a bigger job? Well, number one, they take pretty good care of him in Louisville. They spend a lot of money on college baseball. I've been out there a number of times to call games. It's not the best stadium by any stretch. And their fans, they like baseball. I don't think they love it like Carolina does. I mean, they don't support it. But here's the thing: you want to live a more stress-free life. Coach Louisville and coach in the ACC, and if you're still a multimillionaire, for some people that's enough. Not everybody is chasing the extra few dollars in the bag, and not everybody wants to be at a pressure cooker job. And make no mistake about it, whether it's LSU, Arkansas, or Carolina, it's a pressure cooker job. It's not for everybody. And all you have to do is look at how it's worked out for the last couple of coaches and how quickly the fans have turned on Paul Maneri. Like, that's just it's not for everybody. You got to have some real thick skin. Ray Tanner had it. There were people dropping F-bombs at Sarge Fry Field toward Ray Tanner in the late 2000s. I know because I heard it. I was there.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked to some of the assistant coaches. Talk to Monty Lee about it. Talk to some of the ones that were sitting there coaching the bases and could hear it from the crowd. And basically there was all right, blank you, blank me, blank you. I mean, it got contentious.
Yeah.
So it's just not for everybody. And so, as I said before, there are some people that basically could have had the job and did not want it, elected not to take it. And right now, I think it's at a fever pitch. I think a lot of the criticism that Paul Maneri is receiving, it's a boiling point that has been going on for years with this fan base. What in the hell has happened to our mighty, dominating baseball program, and how do we get it back? That's where I think a lot of the fans are at this point. And it's just like, when the football program went from 3 consecutive 11-win seasons to where it did, the downfall of Steve Spurrier to the point where he walks away in the middle of the season, and the Will Muschamp era, which starts off with 17 wins in the first 2 years, but then goes down, a Shane Beamer 5-7 mark that people were upset about. Like, if all of I think fans can kind of grasp that. They can kind of like, I don't like it. I want us to be great. I want us to be Alabama or Georgia or LSU, but I understand where we are. And so I think fans are a little more tolerant. In basketball, it's like, oh gosh, we peak every now and then, we flash every now and then, but then it's back to the same old, same old. But in baseball, Jamie, I just think the fan base says this is our sport and we should be a dominating program more often than not. And it just sticks in the craw more than any other shortcomings or failures in the other sports.
Well, there's no question about that. I mean, it's the sport that set everything in the right direction around here. I mean, there have been flashes of football from time to time, and obviously basketball under Frank McGuire had a run, but outside of that, there's nothing here at South Carolina until Gamecock baseball became what it came. Not when they won the national championships, when they started competing for them back in early, when you were there, when you were the voice of the program. And the one thing that you hear it all the time, it doesn't matter who you're talking to, anybody that's ever pulled for the University of South Carolina's athletics department every one of them have always in some way, shape, or form made the comment, well, we've always got baseball season. You know what I mean? Like regardless of what happens in the fall or what happens with basketball, when February gets here, at least baseball's here. And that just has been few and I don't want to say far between, but too few of those years and in the last 10 plus, and people are at a tipping point. They want a winner, and I get it. When Mark Kingston was here, he was on our program all the time. Had a great relationship with Coach Kingston. It felt like it was close a lot, and you just couldn't get it there. And then there obviously were a couple of terrible years. I mean, the 2019 season was awful. And the same thing with Coach Holbrook. Like, it felt like it had maybe taken a step back, which it had. I mean, it was the pinnacle. I mean, it was the program in college baseball, and they weren't in Omaha. So if you're not in Omaha and you just went there 3 straight times and competed for 3 straight national championships and won 2, you've obviously taken a step back. And obviously that became the expectation. Whether that's a fair expectation or not, that can be debated, but that's what happened. And, and now they went out and hired a Hall of Fame coach. Coach Tanner went out and hired a Hall of Fame coach in Paul Maneri. And I'm not so sure, to defend a lot of the fans in this. I'm not so sure. I mean, not all of them, because I know some people are like, oh, this is it. They're back to Omaha. I'm not so sure that most people thought that this team was just going to hop in the saddle and get back to Omaha this year.
No,
I didn't personally think that. And I don't know of many people that did. But I also don't believe that a lot of people saw what was coming, which quite frankly has been embarrassing. I mean, they get their ass beat a lot. And then when you learn a lot about the intricacies of the program and, how some things are run and how they should, I mean, like, I understand losing games, especially in a coaching change, like that's going to happen. But when virtually your entire team wants to get into a transfer portal, there's a big problem for me there. Big problem. And I, as I said yesterday, I'm going to defend the players. I think it's both. I think that they obviously need to upgrade their talent to be at the top half of this league. I don't think that's much of a question. But I also don't look at this group and think that they're this bad. Never have. I've watched a lot of these guys win a bunch of games around here, and all of a sudden they can't win one anymore, and they're not even a shell of the player that they were. And I can't. And so I think that there are just a lot of issues. And now that we're towards the end of the year and we've seen almost this entire season as a whole, I think a lot of people are beginning to look at this and go, yes, something's not right. Something's not right. And I don't blame them for thinking that. I think it's very fair. It's a very fair assessment. Now, I'll say this, Mike, now shut up. To the fringe group that says, well, they just need all new players. Well, you're wrong. No team just needs 30 new players, okay? That's not true. So get off of that. They might need a few or a handful of new players and they need some dudes. They need some studs. There's no question. Nobody's arguing that. Okay. And then there's the other group that is, well, it's all pulmonary. No, I'm not going to put all of that on pulmonary. Like, there is got to be some give and take somewhere in the middle. But the reality of it is, we don't know how much give and take is on which side. So I see a lot of issues with this. And then you put the exclamation point on it as this was essentially a short-term fix. We all knew that. You know, he signed a 5-year deal, and he even mentioned, yeah, I'm hoping to be here, 2 or 3 years and then hand this thing over. And people are using some common sense here, and they're going, okay, well, how are you going to replace an entire roster and go out there and just hand this thing over in 2 or 3 years, regardless of the transfer portal? So I get the angst. I understand it all. And I don't have the solution, but I certainly understand where everybody's coming from and why they're frustrated about all this.
Yeah, what you're saying is what my point was yesterday. It's very nuanced. I don't think there's a person on the planet saying there's zero talent on the roster.
Well, there's some, and I've seen it, and it's garbage. It's ridiculous.
Well, you're reading message boards again.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. Like, when you check, I mean, we all look at Twitter. I mean, I don't do Facebook or anything like that, but like, you see Twitter, and I do have to check message boards just because it's my job to read the pulse of things. Most of it, I don't ever regurgitate. I think it's a bunch of crap, and that's what I'm referencing there. I'm like, they don't need 30 new players. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen much of that, but there's no question there's a talent gap. And I say that with all due respect to the players on this roster. First off, I mean, how many guys, I know you mentioned there's a lot of players on this roster that won a lot of games last year, but how many returning starters, when I look at that lineup, how many of those guys started last year?
Well,
Petrie.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's something else that goes in this too. I mean, some of these guys have been banged up. I mean, LeCroy is out. He was your best catcher.
Naraki would have been probably the starting second baseman. I know he got off to a bad start. I mean, there's a lot of people that love that kid as a prospect, but let me answer my question if you can, because I honestly don't know the answer off the top of my head.
So you had your 3-4 hitters returning. You had Kennedy Jones returning, who's gotten worse. And you had Ethan Petrie returning, who didn't have the year that he should have had. And then you had Talmadge LeCroy returning. And that was going to essentially be your
But
nucleus,
he's not there. He's not in. He's hurt. So,
that's what I'm saying.
Of this past series against Florida, how many of the guys in that lineup started and were impact players a year ago?
You have one, and that was Kennedy Jones.
But he doesn't start. He's barely
he does start. I mean, no, he is now. But you said who was an impact player last year?
Kennedy Jones was starting this year. I mean, are we going to blame Kennedy Jones hitting below the Mendoza line on Pulmonary?
I mean,
is that his fault? Really?
I think that there's a lot of people at fault for that. I do.
Okay. I get it, and I know I can't go there, Jamie. I can't blame everything on Pulmonary. I can't blame a guy that, and I had and I don't want to be too critical because they are college athletes. I had someone not named Pulmonary who's very knowledgeable in the sport who told me back in February, the kid can't hit SEC pitching, period. Mm-hmm. And when I tell you off the air who that is, trust me, you'll put stock in it. Sure. I'm not blaming Kennedy Jones's woes at the plate on Pulmonary. And I'm not blaming every time Ethan Petrie strikes out in a key situation with runners on. And I love the kid, so I'm not piling on him, but I'm not blaming all that on Pulmonary either, Jamie. I mean, at some point, the players, 21, 22-year-olds that go up there in the batter's box, see ball, hit ball, I can't blame that all on Pulmonary. This is not a very talented roster top to bottom. You had one preseason All-SEC guy on 50, 60 slots. You go look at the draft boards, Petrie's probably a third rounder, and then that's it in the top 150 prospects. It's just not a very loaded roster. I don't care who's to blame on that. I mean, some of it goes on King. Some of it goes on the transition. Again, if you fire a coach, you do take a step back more often than not. What about Georgia? Well, Georgia inherited a guy in Charlie Condon who was a walk-on who wound up being the SEC's second ever Triple Crown winner. Carolina should only be so lucky to have that kind of player that grows up just begging to be a Gamecock. He's really not good enough to play. He walks on, he redshirts, and then he's a Triple Crown guy. That's not what we're dealing with here. So I can't just sit here and I know what you're saying and I respect it. I can't just sit here and say everybody who's not producing, it's because of Paul Mainieri. I don't buy that. I think, yes, there's a disconnect. Yes, there's all the things that go with being a team going through a crap burger sandwich, which is what this team is going through. But they are, and this is why I asked the question to John Whittle, because after this, I mean, it's like it goes on at the same regurgitation of, well, they didn't do this well, they didn't do that well. Okay, what's the solution? And the solution, if you think Paul Mainieri is going to get fired after 1 year, good luck with that. I personally doubt it.
I don't believe that.
Not you. You know, when I say you, a lot of people are already like talking about that, like it's, the wheels are in motion and you got people threatening a boycott and all this stuff. At the end of the day, to me, the more reasonable solution in 2026 is going to be get on out there and dominate the portal as best you can. Because if you don't, I don't know how much the results change in 2026. And yes, you're right. Yeah. As is the case with every last place team or second to last, all these players are getting phone calls. Hey, you're only a freshman, man. We got something for you here. Not all that is in play, but you have to go out there as an elite program with elite resources, elite assistant coaches, right? I mean, everybody loves Monty Lee. Go out there and get players. Go out there and get guys that are true draft prospects that can play and compete at this level, at a high level in the SEC. That's the solution. I mean, everybody can bitch and moan till the cows come home about what is 2025. We get it. This team is not good, and they're about to have one of the worst seasons in the history of SEC baseball, if not just Carolina. That's fine, but what are you going to do to fix it is my question. And I know the answer is, for a lot, let's just fire the coach, get our pound of flesh, and hit the reset button, and that'll be the first step. I don't think that's going to happen. And I have no inside information. I don't know Jeremy Donati. I don't know what that conversation looks like. I seriously doubt they're going to fork over Jamie, over $5 million in a buyout.
5.2. Yep.
Not to mention the assistant coaches and their buyouts. Because if they bring in a new coach, you can pretty much eliminate everybody on that staff. No one's keeping their job, in my estimation. No one.
Yeah.
So if they're all gone, you're talking, over $7 million? And then you're going to be way behind in recruiting yet again.
Right.
I just don't see that happening. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I seriously doubt that. And so at that point, if you're a problem solver, what is it? Get more talent in there. Has the coaching staff made mistakes? Of course. Show me a team in 15th place that hasn't had coaching mistakes. Show me a team in 15th place that doesn't have a whole lot of issues going on. But I refuse to believe that can't be fixed next year. But you've got to have some dudes.
Yeah. Well, you got to have dudes. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And neither one of us are saying that they don't need to upgrade talent. They certainly do. I have issues with how this program is run, and I don't like it. And I'll stand on that.
And that's a fair opinion. That's not an unfair take.
I would never look at this group of kids and say we just need all new players. I don't think it's fair to them. And
I promise you they're going to do everything in their power to keep Scobie, Hollins, and Moore. So no one is saying let's just completely throw the roster in the trash. That's not what's being said by anybody with any knowledge. I know that for a fact. I know that for a fact. Like, that's not you're smiling. Are you saying they're trying to run off?
Look, I'm just saying, even if they want to try to keep some of these young guys, I don't know that they can do it.
Well, that's a different issue.
But I'm not referencing other people picking them out of the portal and calling them saying, well, I'll give you more money. I'm saying whether these kids really want to be a part of this.
Of course.
That's a problem.
Like, well, yeah.
You can't look. Who wants to show up to work every day and say, I hate who I work for or where I work or whatever the case is? Like, that's an issue. And if that's an issue, that is a top-down issue, not a bottom-up issue. That's a top-down issue.
That is a very fair point. And,
you know,
and we're gonna see in this offseason how much of that comes to fruition. Because I've never seen a team in this spot where there aren't players with a wandering eye
sure,
that aren't
I get
unhappy and like this sucks and I'm ready to. That's just the nature of the beast. Now, when it comes down to brass tacks, do you want to be a Gamecock or do you want to bail? And some will bail. I don't think they all will, but I could be wrong. You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not in the head of all these kids, but I know what you're saying and I know where you're coming from. I just at some point, like if I think you and I both have the same opinion that there's not going to be a coaching change at the end of this year.
no,
right?
the only way there is if it's Paul Maneri decided, like that would be his choice. That's
There's no way he's doing that.
That's my opinion. Is he
Right.
would be the one that had to make that decision. I don't see the university moving on from him. No.
Okay,
Not at all.
you mentioned Jay's question at the press conference. I mean, you got a no-brainer answer. He's not walking away.
Yeah, I like I said,
Of course.
I credit Jay for asking the question, but what's he going to say?
What's he going to say? Yeah, and I thought about it. I'm going to quit and just give up my buyout.
Or I don't know. No, you're not going to do any of that.
No, of course not. So I mean, everybody on the planet could have predicted that answer before the question was completed. Of course, he's coming back. He's not going to voluntarily leave, right?
Yeah, no. I wouldn't
So if that's the case, so if you and I both believe that's the case, now what is? You got to go into problem-solving mode if you're running this program and if you're a part of this program. And from Paul on down, what are you going to do to be better in 2026?
Yep. And like I said yesterday, and I know we got to hit a break here, but like I said yesterday, by the way, because we don't have Strick, I know you got the drive. You can do it in the next segment, or you can do it after.
Let's do it the next hour. Yeah, okay. Let's do it the next. I feel like let's do it the next hour if you don't mind.
But like I said yesterday, like I think that there is a happy marriage in there somewhere of you've got to start, you have to develop what you've got, and then you fill those gaps and you fill those holes and you upgrade where you need to upgrade and recruit over who you need to recruit over. That's fine. I don't have any issue with that. Nobody does. But the priority one for this team, as strange as this sounds right now, I'm just saying, and I hope people understand what I'm saying, should not be the transfer portal. Priority one should be the roster that they have and who they want to keep off of that roster. And I'll leave it at that. That's priority one.
Can we say priority 1B is the portal?
Well, yeah, no doubt. But I'm just saying, like, I would be very focused on making sure that the core group that you want to build your program around, that you've got in a uniform right now. You don't have to go out and find them. They're there. I would be very focused on making sure you're doing everything under the sun to make sure that those guys are still in uniform next year.
Let me ask you a question. If you could give me Jamie's top five players from this roster that obviously are eligible to come back. We know Petrie's going to be gone. We know a number of other guys are out of eligibility. Mm-hmm. Give me five guys. Let's start with Scobie and Hollins. Can we safely say those?
Yeah,
those are the five.
Yeah, those are no brainers, as we all well know. Can we hit a break and come back?
Yeah. Let's say that. I put you on the spot. That's a tough question to answer. But
it's a great question though, because there's some guys that kind of have some, like, you got some draft stuff going on, and so I want to make sure that we're fair to the answer. Do you mind taking us to break, please?
Let's do it. Yeah. Hey, quick on that front. On the sponsor front, we got a new one. You might notice, for those watching on YouTube, a new swanky logo. That's Midstate Roofing. Another great business. We're so fortunate to have terrific sponsors on this program that have stood the test of time in the Palmetto State, and one of them is Midstate Roofing. For nearly 30 years, they've been the proven leader in roofing and waterproofing your roofs. Their history is your assurance that their professionals will provide you with the proper advice, service, results to the needs of your facility in a manner both safe and pleasing to your operation. Family business, Larry Leitner, Blake Leitner, they've got you covered. If you need any assistance with a roof, even if you have a leak with Midstate, they will go ahead and take a peek. 803-356-1919. 803-356-1919. You'll speak to an on-call technician, or you'll speak to somebody who's ready to build you a new roof. Make no doubt about it, the premier roofer in the state of South Carolina. That's Midstate Roofing.
It is 10:40. We'll step aside. We'll be right back.
Nana's Porch presents a Southern staple delivered right to your doorstep. Nana's Porch locally crafted pimento cheese has been a hit for years at weddings, tailgates, and other events. Now you can order online and have it sent to your home. Visit nanasporch.com. That's nanasporch.com and click the pimento cheese tab to choose between their original pimento cheese and their jalapeno smoked pimento cheese set. nanasporch.com. Man, that's good.
It's gone!
That ball is going to be out of here.
Fair ball in the corner.
The atmosphere in Founders Park is electric. There's nothing like being loud and proud for our Gamecocks. Gamecock Traditions proudly supports Carolina baseball and wants you to look your best while you're at the ballpark. Come see us and choose from the best selection of game hats, hoodies, shirts, and all that entails the baseball logo. From tailgate gear to jewelry and plenty for your kids, Gamecock Traditions is your Gamecock baseball locker room. Don't forget, we have the widest selection for all sports and USC apparel. Come see us in Lexington or in the village at Sandhill, or order online and have it shipped to your doorstep at GamecockTraditions.com. Go Gamecocks!
Oh, man. The building is on fire.
Emergencies and accidents happen. When you're in the middle of a fire or water event, all you want is for things to return to normal as soon as possible. Resto Pros of the Midlands is with you, guiding you through the process and working with you to get your home or office back in working order. They'll answer your questions, discuss procedures, and can act as your advocate when it comes to processing your insurance claim. RestoProsMidlandsSC.com. Open 24/7 when you need them. Quality that is guaranteed.
Happy New Year from the Barndominium Company, where they are building dream homes in the Carolinas, Georgia, and Tennessee. Their turnkey process can be custom designed and takes 6 months on average. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. Thebarndominiumco.com. Gamecock owned and operated.
Welcome to Dry Space Crawl Space Solutions. Basement crawl space encapsulation designed for your specific needs. Your crawl space can be susceptible to all sorts of issues, including moisture buildup, mold growth, and structural damage if not cared for properly. Let our trained experts provide basement crawl space encapsulation solutions to protect your home, improve air quality, and enhance energy efficiency. Schedule your consultation today for a safer, healthier space at dryspacecs.com. Dry Space Crawl Space Solutions, proud supporters of your South Carolina Gamecocks.
On deep drive to left. Morgan looks up and it is gone.
That one is a problem.
That ball ran to right and deep and gone. Swinging a drive. Left field, way back and gone.
All right, it is, I don't know what time is it? 10:44. Welcome back inside the Gamecocks, the morning show. Carolina baseball coverage is brought to you by our friends at Palm Casual, palmcasual.com. We have a bunch of rain in the forecast over the next few days, and I'm not worried because all of my stuff is fantastic in the rain. And then when it gets, you get the green mold, if you will, or whatever you want to call it, that kind of gets on it. You use bleach to clean it. I mean, what? You don't ruin the cushions. Now, it's not the cheapest stuff on the planet at all, but it's the best stuff on the planet. I can promise you that. Palmcasual.com. 4 locations here. If you know someone in Florida, they're all over Florida. If you know someone in Wilmington, they're up there. Mike's got it. I've got it. We've all got it. Coach Lake is about to be a Palm Casual customer.
Nice. Way to go, Lake.
Yeah, Tracy's got him on the prowl for good stuff to go around the pool. And unfortunately for Coach Lake, it's looking like he's going to be enjoying the pool days sooner than later this summer. So, I guess definitely unfortunately, but there's a little bit of fortunate in that because it's a brand new pool. So we want to give him some credit. All right, so you asked a really good question. I am more of a believer in a lot of these guys than a lot of people are. Okay, so I'll start with that. You mentioned the 2 freshmen. That's, I think, a no-brainer. Jake McCoy is a no-brainer. He's probably got overall the best stuff right now. They just continue to have the need to teach him how to pitch, and hopefully that continues to. It's been going in a better direction. I know he's done some work on the side to kind of get some things there. I know that the future as far as a stuff standpoint goes and what he's capable of doing certainly next year, but even further down, he's kind of, I don't want to say young in his development, but he is really kind of just going to be coming into himself probably this summer as a left-handed kid who some folks probably feel like they haven't seen enough of. I could argue he hadn't thrown enough strikes to pitch more, but Aiden Palmer is a kid that they really, 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 really like from a talent standpoint. And he's a big kid. He's out of Florence. So, you've got that kid. Zach Russell, I won't go without mentioning Zach Russell, the right-hander out of Charleston. He's just a young kid this year. He's been thrown into some pretty strange situations. But Zach Russell is a guy that I think that they're excited about in the future. Brandon Stone is another one. I mean, he's only a sophomore. The kid came out of JUCO and he was the number 1 JUCO pitcher in the country. And obviously I would think that the guy who started now multiple games on Friday nights, you would want to have him back next year. And then, look, Nathan Hall is a draft guy. But I'm curious, we've been around this long enough, Mike, to know that there certainly are a lot of guys who are going to want to take a chance on Nathan Hall. He's a junior, but he's kind of in that tweener spot because he has had 1 year of going out and playing consistent baseball in his collegiate career. Right. So you wonder what's his number? I don't know what his number is. I have no idea, but if he's not one of the younger guys, but he's certainly a guy that if for some off-the-wall reason he doesn't get what he's looking for when the draft comes around, you want to make sure that guy's back in uniform next year if he's going to play another year of college baseball. I think that's kind of Eddie Copper. I mean, I could keep going. I mean, I just like a lot of these young guys. But those would be the guys that kind of roll off the tip of my tongue, if you will.
Yeah. No, that's a good nucleus. That's a good nucleus.
Well, let me squeeze in one more thing real quick.
Bring it in.
A lot of the stuff that we talk about is related to the lack of offense at times. And I could go on and on about their approach and this and the other. I'm not going to get into the weeds and all that.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the pitching. This is the worst pitching staff they've had in the modern bat era. It's horrible. Whatever Terry Rooney has done with his staff ain't good. Okay, let's just point blank. Every other team under the sun, we can sit there and talk about assistant coaches, and for whatever reason, everything is only landing on Paul Mainieri and Monty Lee, or at least a large majority of it is. Terry Rooney's pitching staff has been absolutely awful throughout the season, with the exception of like 3 or 4 performances. In quality, big time games. I'm talking about opponents that you're going to battle with to get into the postseason, not Milwaukee. And you called 2 of the games when they played Ole Miss. Besides that, the way that, in my opinion, the way that they've managed the staff has been horrendous. The way that they've developed the staff has been horrendous. I'm not trying to be personal with Terry Rooney. The guy's been around a long time, and he knows more about it than I do. I'm just going off of results here. This has not worked, and I'm not one of those people that looks at it and says, "Well, they're just all bad." Find a bunch of new guys.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. They're not all that bad.
No.
Matthew Becker shut out Texas as a freshman. And for whatever reason, he's a senior, and we're scared to put him on the mound, and then you put him out there in mop-up duty, and then you start him on Friday nights. I don't get it. So I don't think that the way that staff has been handled this year has been very good. I think that if you're going to want to keep young guys in this program and you want to get things turned around real quick, you gotta get a group of guys that can pitch. And they've got guys on this team that can pitch. They need to develop those guys, and then they got to go to the portal and get more. And this whole thought process that everybody has to throw 97 and 100 is a bunch of freaking hogwash. Yes, you have to have guys that throw hard. But, Mike, I've watched a lot of guys in this league throw hard and across the country that don't have a frapping clue where the ball's going. Throwing hard ain't what it's all about. Throwing strikes and getting people out is. And if you got a guy that can throw hard and get people out, that's great. But if you got a guy that can throw hard and he doesn't have a damn clue where the ball's going, it doesn't do anybody any good. And so eliminate that talk. I know you want the power arms. They need guys who know how to get guys out.
Can you have both?
Well, that's what I'm saying. But you're not going to go to the portal. We all know this. They're not anybody that thinks they're going to the portal and is going to sign 6 guys that are throwing 95 to 100 that are just all just dudes. You're not doing that. Nobody, you might sign 1 or 2. You're not signing a staff full of them. Nobody can afford it, first of all. And second of all, a lot of those guys, they're going in the draft. So, that's not as easy as everybody thinks it is.
Oh, I agree. You're right.
That's video game stuff. You're creating those players on MLB 2025 and thinking you can do that. That's not going to happen. You better develop the guys you got.
Yes, and this is another example where I agree with everything you just said. I also know, and you've heard this number, like the average velo of the Carolina staff relative to the SEC. It's not apples to apples. I would love to see a couple of guys added.
Yeah,
not 6.
They need
not
them.
5, 2 that can go out there and consistently hit 96 on the gun and look like Friday night stuff. You don't have that now.
No,
so
not there.
And that's not absolving the pitching coach. It's not. 2 things can be true at the same time. It's what I often point out. This whole thing of it's got to be the blame has to go in this bucket. No, it goes in this bucket. It might go in both. It might be a situation where there's been mistakes done in coaching, and the roster still needs a significant upgrade. And that's when I look at it, I just look at it in contrast to what other let's stay with the pitching for a second. What other pitching staffs are throwing on the mound, and it's just a different, for the most part. Now, you mentioned some good arms. It's not like they don't have any good arms. Again, I don't know many people that are saying that truly know what they're talking about, but they could use a couple more. If they want to truly compete for big prizes, they could use a couple more. I'm not an expert on how to get them. I don't know what I don't know what bucket of money they're going through to get them. I don't know. I just see the other teams getting them.
Yeah.
So why can't Carolina get them?
Well, and I think these other guys too. I mean, I'd have to do more research, so I don't want to say something that's not true. But I mean, certainly a lot of these guys have been in those programs for a while and they've been developed. I mean, I look at the guys who are here. I mean, Palmer's a 95 guy. Jake McCoy's a 95 guy.
Everybody knows they got good stuff.
I mean, they just got to learn how to pitch. Brendan Sweeney was up to 97, and we hadn't seen any of that this year. I mean, Brandon Stone's a guy that can get up to 95. And you get another summer wherever these guys are going to play. I'm not sure, or maybe some of them take some time off, and then you got fall. But they've just got to. That's what I was mentioning earlier, Mike. Like if I'm just not a believer in this. Like if anybody thinks that they're going to go out and they're just going to just attack the portal and they're going to bring in 20 new guys and every problem solved. Oh man, we're going to be having the same conversation next year. It's not going to happen. They have the guys that they need to develop. They've got to keep them and start there. And you plug the holes in the portal. But I mean, for instance, last year, I can't remember the kid's name. Where was he from? Somewhere in the Northeast. I don't know if it was like Boston. I don't think it was Boston College. It was a smaller school. And they signed him. He probably would have been a Friday night guy here. If not, he would have been on the weekend. There's no question about that. But I remember when they signed him, hearing, yeah, he's probably the guy who's going to come in, and he is certainly competing for Friday nights. He's a right-hander. I don't know if you remember this or not. And surprisingly enough, he jumps into the top 10 rounds of the draft. Hell, he might have gone in the 4th or 5th round and kind of came out of nowhere. But he was 95, 96, and he's already in high A this year. Mm-hmm. So, like they went and signed the kid, and he had all intentions of coming to school, and it was like, I just got $400-something thousand, coach. I got to sign. Yeah, you got to sign. Yeah, take the money. So there's a lot of that out there in the draft too. There's guys now. We're seeing it with basketball, aren't we? Didn't we just see this up at Clemson? Didn't Jamari Thomas do this at South Carolina? There's guys, they're out of eligibility. There's guys who are in a similar spot that are 100% draft guys. This is happening in college baseball everywhere. You're about to see a bunch of it. 100% draft guys. Maybe they're not first rounders, but top 10 rounders where you're going to sign, right? And they're getting into the portal. So they're like in protecting themselves and then protecting their protection. So they're going, all right, well, I'm planning to sign, but if not, I'm going to test the portal cash. Or, I don't want to play here anymore, and I'm going to leave and go somewhere else. If I don't sign, I'm going to go play somewhere else. So it's just not as cut and dry as everybody thinks that it is, and it's certainly not as easy as everybody probably thinks.
100% agree on all that. I want to believe, and maybe this might be ignorance is bliss. I want to believe that regardless of who the coach is, South Carolina is still a destination program for top-notch recruits. Yeah, I look at the right. I mean,
hope you're right.
Is that completely out of left field? Is that a hot take? Is that?
I think it's.
Am I being a contrarian to say that?
I think it should be a fact.
I would think so. But I mean, I'm looking at it, for example, and this includes high school kids. So if you were to eliminate high school kids, these numbers are even more dramatic. 5 of the top 55 prospects in the upcoming Major League Baseball draft, 5 of the top 55 are current SEC starting pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
Then if I go down a little bit further, 6 of the top 65, right? You want me to go a little bit further? 7 of the top 70. And they all range. It's not just one program. Yes, Tennessee's got a lot of them. But it's Tennessee, it's Alabama, it's Vanderbilt, right? It's Texas A&M. Where are these guys on the Gamecock roster?
Yeah.
And that's not just a pulmonary thing. That goes back to Kingston.
Mm-hmm.
So why is South Carolina being out-recruited in baseball by some SEC schools not named LSU? LSU, I get it. Like LSU they're kind of the modern-day Alabama of the sport.
Mm-hmm.
But the other ones, what's the deal?
Yeah, yeah.
And I get it, Jamie. I mean, you can look back. Ray will be the first one to tell you this. They went to a lot of Omahas and won a lot of national championships without high velo guys. I get it.
Oh,
there's more than one way to be effective as a pitcher. Kip Balknight won a Golden Spikes Award. He never lit up a radar gun in his life. But in this day and age, I'm sorry, you got to have some swing and miss guys if you want to be really good in the SEC over the weekend. You just do.
Yeah.
You can't just outthink everybody. You got to have some guys that just shove based on pure stuff. And so I'd like to see this draft board in a couple of years, and I start to see a lot of South Carolina right-hand RHP, LHP, right-handed pitcher, left-handed pitcher. I'd like to see some of that. Just a thought.
I don't disagree with any of that. There you go. Ben in the chat box. Matt Duffy, that was his name, from Canisius. Yeah, he was everybody wanted him, and we got him. But anyways. All right. We gotta get to a break here. It's 10:58. Landon Powell will be joining us. Real quick here. You said this earlier, and I wanted to take a stab at this. You said you had the baseball from the 5 guys that were on all 3 of the 02, 03, 04 teams.
Yes.
There were only 5.
Yes.
I know Landon. I know Matt Campbell. Kevin Malillo. Aaron Rawl. Had to be Aaron Rawl because he started against Texas in 02. He pitched in 04.
The 5th one is the one that nobody gets.
Hold on.
If anybody could do it, I have faith in you. but it's tough. I will say this.
It is. It wasn't a position player. It's a pitcher, and I know that. It is. Don't say anything because I know who it is.
I will not say a word.
Mum
is the word.
Chris Donald.
Cliff Donald.
Cliff Donald.
Yes.
Cliff Donald.
Boom.
Cliff Donald. Sorry, Cliff. Cliff Donald. I knew it.
Donald. Yes.
Don't want to buy
Great
a lottery
job. Cliff was out of, I believe, Anderson. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking of Chris Hernandez and
Chris
Cliff
is your
Donald.
lawn maintenance guy. He's also a great human being. Not a whole lot of velo, but man, does he do a great job with the shrubs.
Cliff Donald. I got it. Let's see if
You
Landon
got it.
can
You
name.
nailed it.
Let's see if Landon can name the other four.
I don't even know if Landon would have gotten Cliff Donald.
I knew it.
And he shared a locker room with him.
Well, I have read so much over the years in the Carolina record book stuff because we've just done so much, and I have looked at all the teams and the rosters over and over and over again. Not like I didn't know, but I remember there was another. I was like, "Whoa, this has been a long time ago." Anyways,
yeah.
All right, okay, all right. It's 11. Landon Powell up next.
This is Larry Leitner, owner and founder of Midstate Roofing. And for nearly 30 years, we've continued to be the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. Midstate Roofing's proven history is your assurance that our professionals at Midstate Roofing will provide the proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility in a manner both safe and pleasing to your operation. From high-rise to hospitals, manufacturing to industrial, Midstate Roofing designs and installs bonded systems with a protective guarantee that will keep your operation dry and running long into the future. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And this is Blake Leitner, reminding you to protect that roof with a maintenance contract. Call me today at 803-356-1919 or online at midstateroofing.com. That's midstateroofing.com.
You'll speak to an on-call technician after hours or a Midstate Roofing staff member during hours at 803-356-1919 or online at midstateroofing.com. And as always, tell them Midstate Twins.
If you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek.
Hey, this is Cornbread Cowboy, and you're listening to the show. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Dry Space Crawl Space Solutions. Basement crawl space encapsulation designed for your specific needs. Your crawl space can be susceptible to all sorts of issues, including moisture buildup, mold growth, and structural damage if not cared for properly. Let our trained experts provide basement crawl space encapsulation solutions to protect your home, improve air quality, and enhance energy efficiency. Schedule your consultation today for a safer, healthier space at dryspacecs.com. Dry Space Crawl Space Solutions, proud supporters of your South Carolina Gamecocks.
The Aventon Adventure 2 takes the same basic design as the original Aventon Adventure, making it an adventure bike designed to take you places that typical roads just don't reach, allowing you to ride whatever terrain you want based on your whims of the day. Look at what you're getting. Hydraulic disc brakes, torque sensor for responsive pedal assist, great LED lighting, suspension, a beautifully welded frame with excellent build quality, included rear rack, included fenders. The list just keeps going on.
Visit electricbikescharleston.com for more. Welcome to Palm Casual Patio Furniture. Because we are the factory, Palm Casual has the ability to offer the highest quality outdoor furniture paired with world-class service. Since 1979, our factory showrooms have done our best to make the buying process as easy as possible for our customers. Our understanding of the many factors that go into your decision has helped us create our 30-day trial period that increases the level of comfort our customers feel during the shopping experience. Visit us in Somerville, Mount Pleasant, Myrtle Beach, and Bluffton, and online at palmcasual.com for our products and out-of-state locations. Go Gamecocks! Welcome home. That's what the Gamecocks say, and so does nationally recognized the Barndominium Company, where they are building dream homes in the Carolinas, Georgia, and Tennessee. Their turnkey process can be custom designed and takes 6 months on average. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. Thebarndominiumco.com.
Mike here for my good friend Troy Branham of Golden Gate Mortgage. Let's face it, it's been a rough go for mortgage rates the last couple of years. And now more than ever, you need someone on your side to get you the very best possible rate on a new mortgage or a refi. That's where Troy comes in. 27 years of experience working for you. Conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, rehabilitation loans, all doable with my man Troy Branham of Golden Gate Mortgage. And when I say doable, I mean the best possible rate that's out there. It's a phone call that can literally save you thousands of dollars. 803-238-0111. 803-238-0111. You can also check out the website ggmortgage.com.
This is my dirt.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the morning show. Presented by the Barndominium Company and Resto Pros of the Midlands. Hour 2 starts now.
Yeah, I'd hate to be the first to sell. This is my dirt, these are my fields, where I harvest what I plant. That little pond, I catch bluegill. I built that barn with my 2 hands, where I raise my babies, a piece of me. Now this ain't just a piece of land. The money'd be great, but I can't part ways with a life that works. You can't put a greenback dollar on what it's worth.
All right, it's the final hour inside the Gamecocks, the morning show built by the Barndo Co. and presented by our friends at Gamecock Traditions, Mike Morgan, myself, and the great Landon Powell, getting ready for the postseason again up in Tigerville, South Carolina. Hey, bud, how are you?
I'm good. Is my camera not working?
No, it's working great. You look wonderful. Are you doing makeup today, or what's going on?
No, I just on my screen it shows my screen's black, but I see the beautiful Mike Morgan sitting there. I didn't think you were going to surprise me. Didn't know you were surprising me with Mike Morgan.
Well, I could do.
Yeah, but I was bragging about you earlier. I don't know if you're a regular listener to the show when you sneak in away from your coaching duties, but yeah, I was just talking about when you first arrived, and of course there was there was a lot of hype and hoopla surrounding you, and but you could just tell right away you were going to be a cornerstone. I remember how fortunate we were that you didn't go after your junior year. To be a part of that 04 team, which I would maintain is one of the most talented teams Carolina's ever had. But there's so many moments that you provided. And I was talking about this too. I learned a lot about you guys, the players, because for much of my time, I was only in my 20s. I mean, I was back in the back of the bus hanging with you guys. I wasn't in the front of the bus hanging with the coaches. They were boring. I wanted to be with the players. And you, at 19, 20 years old, already had like an intellectual vibe about you, your knowledge of the game. Like you could tell that one day this guy's going to be a coach. So I'm not surprised that you made it where you are. That's a long-winded way of saying I'm so happy for your success as a coach and really enjoyed covering you for your 4 years wearing the Gamecock uniform.
I appreciate that, Mike. You know I love you, man. And it's rare in the world you have friends like Mike Morgan that you've known that long. And, you know, I don't see Mike very often, but every time we get together and talk, it feels like just feels like we're right back in those days in 2002, 2003, you know?
You know, the last time, thank you for that. And right back at you. The last time I think you and I, well, 2 times. You and I did an SEC network game together, I believe in Gainesville. I have a picture of you and me talking to Sully in like the batting cage.
We did the South Florida game together.
Okay. That one I don't even remember. Okay.
And do you remember who the coach of South Florida was?
It's Mark Kingston.
Mark Kingston.
It's Mark Kingston, yeah.
Yeah, we went down on the field like before the game and talked to Sully and to Kingston.
And to King.
That was when I just retired. I just retired from baseball, and Andrew Kiddick called me out of the blue and was like, "Hey, random question, but would you have any interest in, doing some stuff with ESPN or SEC Network, like baseball games? And I was like, yeah. I mean, I had at that time, I just started coaching at North Greenville, and I didn't really know what my full future was at that time. I thought I wanted to be a coach, but actually, I might even been at Furman at that time. But yeah, I just kind of jumped into it, and I think it was maybe my 5th or 6th game they paired me with you, and I was like, this is awesome. Like,
Yeah,
of anybody to be paired with, this is going to be so easy.
It was very surreal for me. There's a couple surreal moments, and I'll just share one more. And Jamie, I'll give way.
Good.
The first time that's the last time I think we spent any quality time. The first time was me calling some Brave spring training games, and it was like a reunion because I got to see Drew Meyer, I got to see Steve Pearce. I mean, just about anybody during that time frame. This was 2010 through 2014 when I was doing the games. And we had one of your games there and just chatting with you on the field. And it was pretty awesome experience. I can't remember who you would have been with it because you wouldn't have been with the A's because they would have been in the Cactus
I would have
League,
either
right?
been with the Astros or the Mets, probably.
Yeah.
Those were my last 2 years. I played 2012 with the Astros, but I didn't get over to spring training with the Astros until late because they traded me right before spring training ended. So it was more likely probably when I was with the Mets, which would have been 2013. That was my last year playing.
Yeah. I remember doing some games at Port St. Lucie. I did one game at Port St. Lucie where Brian Jordan was my analyst. And I get there because the Braves would put me up in Orlando for like a month, and I would stay where the players stay. And for Orlando to Port St. Lucie is like an hour and a half. The players hated that trip. Guys in spring training, they don't want to have to get on a bus for an hour and a half. We get there, and the producer's looking at me like somebody died when I got there. I was like, what's the problem? He goes, it's about your partner, Brian Jordan. I was like, what is it? He's not here. I was like, oh, he's running a little late. No, he had the dates mixed up. He's not even in the state of Florida.
Oh, gosh.
So I literally did an open, the stand-up solo, no analyst. Ralph Kiner, the legendary Ralph Kiner, sat in with me for 5 innings, which was great. John Sherholtz, Chipper Jones did some color. But anyway, old BJ never showed up for the game. You showed up on time for your TV appearances, Landon, because you're a pro and you're a professional, just like you were as a player and as you are as a coach. So
Ray Tanner time.
Time. Yeah, if you're not early, you're late.
Yep. If you're 15 minutes early, you're on time.
Hey, right. when you were with speaking of that, when you were with the Mets, didn't you and Reese play 1 year? Like,
yep.
Or at least
we played. So I was the last guy cut in spring training that year with the Mets. When they sent me to AAA. That was when my daughter had just passed away that offseason, and I had been in the hospital all offseason, and baseball was not a priority in my life. I had not been training or working out or doing anything. So I went to spring training, and I told Terry Collins, the manager, I was like, day one, as soon as I walked in there, like put my stuff in my locker, I walked in his office and we talked for about 15 minutes. And I told him, I'm not a Major League Baseball player right now. Like I haven't been doing the things I need to do, but he was awesome. He was like, we know, and we're going to give you all the time you need to get your body in shape and get the rust off. And so don't worry about that. Just go play. And so I stayed with him the entire spring training. And the last day of camp, they sent me to AAA, which was in Las Vegas, Nevada. And Reese Havens was one of our utility infielders there. So Reese and I had known each other, but we didn't play together at South Carolina. He was right after me. And so we were friends, but like we had never really played together. So we spent that whole season riding to the field together every day. Reese had bought like some beat up like Geo Metro car that like I don't even know what that thing was. It didn't even have a roof on it. I think he paid $1,500 for it or something like that.
Yeah.
And we were just driving to the field every day. And that was a fun season. It was also not a fun season at the same time because I was homesick and I missed my family. My wife had a lot going on with our kids, and our daughter had just passed. And that was kind of my last shot at baseball. Like, I'm going to go play one more year and see if I still love it and see if I can get back to the big leagues. And Reese and I were both in AAA, just not loving it. I had spent the previous 4 years in the big leagues and, or parts of those years in the big leagues. And to be back in AAA in Vegas, which is not a place you want to live, and it was 115 degrees every day driving to the field. I specifically remember a day that me and Reese were riding to the field, and we stopped at a stoplight. And he had his top off on this Geo Metro thing, and I'm sure we looked hilarious in there riding it, like two pro athletes riding this little tiny beater of a car. And we're sitting at this stoplight, and it was so hot, like it felt like your skin was melting. And we both just looked at each other, and we were like, "What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing? Why are we doing this?" And I was at that point in my career where it was like I felt the need, like every day, like I'm good. I think I've done enough. I think I've checked enough boxes as a player, and I'm kind of ready to go home, and I'm ready to be done playing. My body hurt so bad. Getting ready to play every day was like a process of, pills and ointment and hot tub and just stretching. It was like it was time. And so, that was my last year playing. Reese and I both. I think we both retired at the end of that season.
Yeah, and he had battled so many injuries, and I remember all that. I remember when he bought that. I asked him. I said, "Are you bringing that home?" He's like, "No."
No, he's gonna sell it. Yeah, he bought it and sold it out there. Actually, I think he might have made money on it. I think he bought it for like $1,500 and sold it for $2,000 or something crazy like that.
Sounds like
remember.
him. Yeah, that sounds about right for him. Yeah. Well, it's hard to believe it's been that long, Landon. We're getting up in age, man. You still look good though. Don't worry about it.
I appreciate it.
How's Allison? How are the kids? Everybody good?
Yeah, everybody's good. My son Holden's a freshman at Greenville High. I guess he's wrapping up his freshman year. Played football and basketball. He's the quarterback on the football team and a center fielder pitcher on the baseball team. So he had a good year and had a lot of fun playing sports. My daughter Ellie is in 6th grade, and they're both good students. They're both good athletes. She's a good little soccer player. Her team just won their championship this past weekend. She scored a goal in the game. So Allie and I are doing well. We're proud of our kids. We're in a good season of life, and it's hard to complain too much. It is. We are getting old though. Which if I'm getting old, imagine what Mike Morgan was feeling.
I know.
No,
ancient.
No, but I got a
Landon.
call yesterday from a guy from MLB.com wanting to do an interview on the Dallas Braden perfect game, getting ready for Mother's Day, and he wanted to ask some questions to me. And he told me it was the 15-year anniversary of the perfect game, and it was just like, oh my. It hit me. I was like, it's been 15 years since that. Crazy. Wow. So, it's time's flying, man.
Can I ask one more memory lane question? Because I know we're going to get into the here and now. I get asked this question all the time. I want to get it from one of the players. Your memories, 2002, sold out Sarge, Miami Super Regional, after losing in Game 3 the previous 2 years with one went away from Omaha on the line. You were up there in Stanford for one of those. Take me through the 9th inning. What are your memories of that?
I just remember like the feeling in the 7th, 8th, kind of leading into the end of that game was like, not again. Like here we are. Like Tanner, I guess at that time Tanner had several really good teams in a row that didn't make it, and I think the storyline at the time was like, can he break through and get to Omaha? He hasn't ever been to Omaha as a head coach, and he's had these number one teams that just aren't getting there. Because, the year before I got there with Balknight, Bauer, Barber, that team was supposed to go to Omaha, and then they didn't. And then my freshman year, we were supposed to go to Omaha, and we didn't. And so that was kind of the theme, I think. And I just remember thinking, like, we got to bust through right here some way, somehow. And Coach Toman got us together. He had done it many times throughout the year, but he would get a lot of the guys on the bench and he'd rile them up. And, he called synergize. We got to synergize, boy. Bring the synergy together. And he'd get a bunch of us college guys, and he'd have us like stand up on the top step and, intertwine our feet and connect our arms. And it's crazy that he could get college kids to do these things. And he would come up with some chant or some rally, and Toman was always really good with that. But we started doing that late in that game, and it just, I don't know, man, that inning, it's just like a magical inning. Coach Tanner made a couple big moves, pinch hit Dyson, which was a big move, and, told me to bunt. I haven't bunted my entire career, like ever. The only time I'd ever been given a bunt in my entire baseball career was in a high school playoff game when I was a freshman in high school. The coach, I was a switch hitter, and my dad was making me hit left-handed no matter what against right-handed pitchers, because he was trying to develop me as a player. And I was nowhere as good left-handed hitter as I was a right-handed hitter at that stage of my career. So we're in like the first round of the playoffs. We're down 2, and it's late in the game, and my coach calls time. Well, actually, I think I get up to the plate. I'm hitting left-handed, and he gives me the bunt, and I like bunt right through it. I look terrible because I've never bunted before. And I was batting cleanup. I don't know why he was giving me the bunt, but he calls time, and he comes and brings me over to the third base coach's box, have an offensive visit, and he's like, "Hey, listen, if you bat left-handed, we got a bunt right here. But if you want to turn around and hit right-handed, I'll let you swing." And I was like, "I'll hit right-handed. I don't want to bunt," And he's like, "All right, well, go right-handed." And I remember like walking back to home plate, looking at my dad in the crowd, thinking, "Is he getting ready to be mad at me right here? Like, did I go right-handed?" Because he was that kind of he was a dad coach that was very tough on me.
Oh yeah.
So
I forgot that Ray asked you to sacrifice.
Yes, I bunted in that inning.
I forgot about that.
Anyway, so to finish the high school story, I went right-handed. I hit a 3-run homer, actually, and it was a huge moment. We took the lead. So now fast forward to my sophomore year of college, and I have not bunted or even attempted to bunt since then. So it's been 3 or 4 years since I've even tried to bunt. And he gave me the bunt sign, and I laid one down, and I almost beat it out. I was really close to beating it out, but I was not very fleet of foot, Mike. But I was out by a step, and then I think Justin Harris might have bunted right after me.
Yeah, but he was a great bunter. He's one of the best bunters I ever saw,
and he beat his out.
Yeah,
so he was safe because they didn't cover the bag. And I think that might have been right before me, and then I bunted, and then then we had Matty Enzo, 2 pass balls, and Brian Busher at home plate, who was out by. He was out by 20 feet. And I can't believe
what is he doing?
I cannot believe the umpire had the integrity to make the right call because he was safe. He slid right under the glove. He slid right between Matty Enzo's legs. But in baseball, they call him out, 9 out of 10 times because the ball beat him by so far. Mm-hmm. And back then, there's no replay.
Right.
But if they call him out in that moment, like, that's it. We're done. But he called him safe. That was just a crazy inning, and they had a couple All-Americans on that team. Javi Rodriguez, Matty Enzo, the catcher, and then their closer was also an All-American. And Matty Enzo and the closer had really bad innings, and those guys had not had bad innings the entire season. And that inning, they had their worst innings of the year, and we had some big hits. Jerome Peters with a big, I think, double to the fence. Dyson with a double. Harris with an awesome bunt. It was just a great inning. And that inning changed. In my opinion, that inning had a major shift in Carolina baseball. That inning, 100%. If we lose right there and don't go to Omaha again, who knows? But the fact that we were able to break through, get to Omaha, and then make the run we did in Omaha, beating Clemson twice and getting all the way to the national championship, it really, I think, changed the trajectory of Carolina baseball and helped us launch what happened the next 10 years.
Oh, that's the understatement of our lives. When honestly, it changed everything. I asked Coach Tanner, Landon, you were last on with us on opening day, right? Wasn't it opening day?
Yeah, earlier in the season sometime. Yeah, for sure.
I think it was opening day. And I asked Coach Tanner that day, I said, do you think if it was a 3-game series that year that y'all would have won the national championship? And he goes, oh, yeah, no doubt. And I was like, really? You say that comfortably? He's like, yeah, we would have won it if it was a 3-game series. I said, well, Raul pitched in the title game. Who was going to pitch in the second game if there was a 3-game series? He said, I don't know if we had anybody left. I was like, well, then how would you have won it? And he was like, oh, we would have won it. Oh, okay.
The whole thing that, what's crazy is when we got to Omaha, we had really good pitchers on that staff that didn't pitch in Omaha or didn't, for whatever reason, they weren't being trusted at that time because they had maybe had some bad outings. David Marchbanks. Marchbanks was available to pitch that national championship game and didn't. He went with Raul instead because David had been struggling a little bit, I think, at that time. And David comes back the next year and is SEC Pitcher of the Year. And we didn't start him in the national championship game. Gary Bell, another left-handed starting pitcher. Gary was available. and we didn't pitch him that game. Raw had been really hot late in the year and had been pitching really well. And he had thrown a complete game, or I think it might have been a complete game against Georgia Tech in the elimination round 2 days before or 3 days before. I think he threw like a 14-pitch complete game. I mean, a 14-hit complete
That's
game,
right.
which you don't see that ever. You know, to give up 14 hits in a game, you're probably not still in there at the end. But I think we started Aaron Raw.
Like 4 runs or something, wasn't it? Like
he pitched.
Runs?
I mean, he scattered them, and like we won the game, and I think we scored a bunch.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started Raw on 3 days rest as a true freshman in the national championship game, and we had Chris Spigner, who ended up pitching in the game, Gary Bell, David Marshbanks. So we had some veteran guys who had started plenty of games throughout the season, and Tanner went with Raw because he was the hot hand, and you know, we just. You know, we were an offensive-led team for sure. I mean, we were winning most of our games with the bat, and you know, we did have some great outings from Bondo and you know, from some other guys, but we were an offensive team.
You hit 122 home runs that year. That kind of tells the story.
It's pretty good. I was hitting like 300 with like 15 home runs. I batted in the 8-hole.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. The footnote to all of that too. Not only was it not 2 out of 3, but compared to now they space it out more. Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't have, after that second beating of Clemson, or beat down, should I say?
We'd have a day off.
Yeah. You'd have a day off.
Yeah,
they don't make them play the very next, and it was a day game. It's not like you had all day at the hotel, or like you had to go to sleep, catch a few hours, eat breakfast, bam, back to the ballpark, because CBS used to televise the title game, and they wanted to be at a certain time. Now it is more ready-made for a team that maybe doesn't have the deepest pitching staff. So you want to talk about another factor that could have led into beating Texas. You would have had more days off for that staff, and whether it was Raw or somebody else, you would have been better equipped to line it up. But anyway,
I mean, Texas had their All-American 15-game winner fresh, and then they had Houston Street in the bullpen fresh.
Yeah.
So they were able to just go like their number one straight to their closer, and you know, made it really tough on us. And you know, we're kind of just whoever's arm's not killing them, we're running out there. You know, like can you throw without it hurting? All right, get loose. But that's what happens when you lose that first game, which was what all 3 years that I went to Omaha with Coach Tanner, you know, we lost that first game every year, and we always put ourselves in the loser's bracket. We lost to Georgia Tech 12-0 or whatever it was. Next year, Stanford, and the last year, Cal State Florida. And then we every year had to go through the loser's bracket. And we always would go win a couple in the loser's bracket and put ourselves back in position, but it just hurts your pitching depth so much, which is not really what we were known for.
Well, the one that still sticks with me as much as any is 04, because that team was beyond good enough to win a national championship. Loaded pitching, hitting, depth. There weren't a whole lot of weaknesses on that 04 team. And you wound up, I think, being drafted with the Windsor kid, right? And playing with him. They basically were like, let's throw his arm out. I don't care. We're going to do what we got to do to win Omaha. And they did. That would not be looked upon very kindly today, the way they used him. But if that doesn't happen, you already beat Fullerton one time in the rematch. I have no doubt you could have beaten him again. And if that team goes to the championship, it's the first national championship in 2004.
Yeah, that's one I look back, because I was drafted with Windsor and Suzuki. So
that's
both,
right.
You know, the two best players on Cal State Fullerton. I mean, Justin Turner is the most well-known player on that Cal State Fullerton team, but he wasn't the best player on that team.
Right.
You know, Justin Turner was like a 300 hitter with 7 homers or something like that at Cal State Fullerton. You would never believe he'd turn into the perennial all-star that he did. But Windsor was their guy, and he beat us twice. I mean, he single-handedly beat us both games. He threw opening game and shut us out, and then we went all the way through the losers bracket, beat them in the first game, and then had to beat them again, and they threw Windsor again, and I think he only allowed like 1 or 2 runs the second time. So, he was a really good pitcher, and I played with him in the minor leagues, and you know, his arm wasn't the same. He actually hurt his shoulder, and it messed his career up. I think he might have still got a cup of coffee in the big leagues, if I remember correctly, but he battled shoulder injuries his whole career, and he was a tough dude. Like he pitched through a lot of pain in pro ball and stuff like that. But man, he was good in college. But yeah, I mean, all 3 of those years, I think we had really good teams. We were always missing like that one stud ace that you could just throw out there, like a Jason Windsor, a guy that you just were going to throw out there and you knew we're winning this game because of this guy. And we had good starting pitching, but we didn't have a Roth that was just going to go throw 9 and shut teams down. Really, we had our stable of lefties with Bondurant and Marchbanks and Gary Bell and Matt Campbell, and we had some really good lefty arms, but and we always seemed to have a good closer. I mean, Blake Taylor was the 0-2 closer, and Hernandez did a great job in 0-3, and then Blackwell was the 0-4 guy. So we always had really good back end arms too. But South Carolina in those days didn't have that All-American starting pitching. And in all the years that I played at South Carolina, we didn't have very many pitchers make it to the major leagues.
Right.
Now you look up there and you can think, you can sit there and list 5 or 6 major league pitchers pitching right now that are South Carolina alum. When I was going through, like Balkanite didn't make it. Gronk got a cup of coffee, I guess, but like Barber didn't make it. Bauer didn't make it. A lot of those guys.
I think Barber might have had a cup of coffee with Arizona.
He might have, yeah. Cincinnati or somebody maybe.
I thought Arizona, but I could be wrong.
Maybe Arizona, yeah.
Yeah.
Billy Buckner got to the big leagues. Was one of the pitchers that I played with that got to the big leagues, but also very short period of time.
The knuckle
Billy was
curve,
hurt.
right?
Yeah, he had an awesome curveball. He struck out 16 against Clemson or something like
Man,
that
he was nasty.
early in the year, and then he got hurt and didn't pitch. So we didn't really have Billy Buckner in 2004 on that team. We should have. As good as we were. If we would have had him, maybe it's a different story there in Omaha, but we still made a good run. Good teams, a lot of good players.
I got to give some hugs and hand pounds to my brother, Matt Campbell. I thought Soup was destined for the big leagues. I mean, he had the best breaking ball I'd ever seen. You caught it. You know how good it was. And then he just ran into issues too and couldn't. Of course, he's fine now. If anybody needs a uniform, call Matt Campbell, BSN Sports.
He's doing great.
He married the beautiful Charlotte Flint. But I thought, when he went in the first round with KC, this guy's going to be in the big leagues. And I mean, his breaking ball, right, Landon, was as good as anybody's in the country. I mean, it was
for sure. And for sure at the college level, he had one of the best breaking balls in the country, which is why he got drafted. I mean, the thing about Soup is that he threw 90, but he didn't really locate his fastball well. Yeah. He pitched with his curveball, and he would show fastballs to get you off the curveball. But he was pitching with that curveball. Had a below-average changeup, which he'll laugh at me saying. He threw me a changeup in a scrimmage one time at South Carolina, and I hit it on the softball field. And I told him, don't ever throw that. You just need to stop throwing that pitch. But his curveball was untouchable. I mean, it was really, really good. And of all the guys that I caught in my career, I mean, I caught some really good curveballs. Ben Sheets was a guy I got to catch. Gio Gonzalez had one of the best curveballs in the big leagues. But Soups was right up there with the best curveballs I ever caught. And it was a lot like Gio's. It would gain speed as it broke. Like when it would start to break down, it would pick up speed as it was breaking, it makes it that kind of power curve. And as a hitter, there's just no way to adjust and get your barrel to it. And the angle that it would come through the hitting zone, because it was so sharp, it would just be really hard to square up. So, yeah, he had a dominant curveball. So,
I got a couple of questions I want to ask you off of that real quick too. One is a catching question we'll get to in just a second. We are going to ask you about North Greenville. You are battling for a national championship this year. Don't worry, Landon. But people, of course, love hearing all this stuff. I got a chance last week to screen in spirit. I got a chance to watch the whole thing, and I don't know if you've seen the whole thing yet or not. I mean, you were fantastic in there. But of course, the highlight of all of this, while it was about Gamecock baseball, it was about Baylor Teal and Charlie Peters. Do you keep up with Charlie? Have y'all had contact over the years, or the bat?
No,
bat boy.
Not really. That doing that story was good because I got to reconnect a little bit, and they showed me some videos of him and heard some comments that that his parents had made or things like that. So that was really cool to kind of reconnect. But no, I when they went back to the World Series in 10, 11, 12, like I got to watch it from afar, and it was really cool to see that, that he was doing well and he was, hanging in there. And so, but no, I haven't seen the In Spirit. I was invited to the premiere, I guess, but we were playing in the conference tournament, so I couldn't go. And then they're doing another premiere here in Greenville this weekend. I'm going to try to go to it, but my son's got games this weekend, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to swing it. But I've heard from a couple teammates it was really good.
Really
so
good.
I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I know the guys that worked on it worked really hard, and they put a lot of time into it. So it's been cool kind of watching that process over the last year or so. I think I did the interview for it over a year ago.
Yeah.
So I don't even remember what all was said or anything. So I'm kind of excited to see it.
I can forward you the link if that makes it easier for you. I don't know if I'm supposed to do that or not.
Get him in trouble. I guess it comes out May 14th or something, right?
Yeah, it's next week. It is so good, man. It's one of the best that's ever been done. These SEC stories and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's Jake Williams deserves a lot of credit. He worked
Jake
hard
did
on
an
this.
awesome job.
Yeah.
My wife wants me to move my son's base. See, I coach my son in travel baseball, and he's on a really good team that plays up here in Greenville. And they have games at the exact time as the premiere here in Greenville. My wife's telling me to cancel the games or move. She wants to go to the premiere. But, that's not really how I do things. Baseball takes priority. So
kind of takes priority.
It'll be on TV. I'll get to see it.
Well, the Selection Sunday's coming up this week, and of course, y'all will be in the tournament. Belmont Abbey won the Conference Carolinas tournament this past weekend, so I guess that means that they'll host, right? They'll be a regional host.
I don't know that they'll host. Going into the conference tournament, we Catawba and us were like the two schools in line to host. To be honest with you, JB, we've kind of tanked the last week or two. We've hurt ourselves. We were far and away in first place in the region, in line to host, to be the number 1 seed. And we dropped a couple games late in the year to teams that we shouldn't lose to, which is, it's baseball, it's sports. We're not, we have not made a habit of those things over the years here. When we play a team we're supposed to beat, we usually beat them. And we lost a couple games late in the season that have hurt us. That dropped us down to second place going into the regionals. Going into the conference tournament. The top 2 teams still host in your region.
Okay.
The way they do it in Division II. So we were still in line to host. And then we didn't play great at the conference tournament. We pitched really well. We did not hit. And we lost a couple 1-run ball games. So I don't know if Belmont Abbey, I think they were in 4th or 5th in the region. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure that they'll jump from 4th or 5th all the way up to 1st or 2nd. I don't think they will. I do think that we will probably drop from 2nd down to 3rd or 4th. So we may have lost our host. And I just don't know who it'll be now. So they'll the conference, the SAC and the Peach Belt, the other 2 conferences in our region, they have their last games this weekend of their conference tournaments. And once that dust settles, then they'll do the selection show Sunday. We're going to be in a regional. It's just whether we're hosting or whether we're going on the road. I'm preparing my guys, their mindset to go on the road right now and go play somewhere else, which will be the first time in a long time. We've hosted 6 years in a row.
Right.
Which, of all the things I think we've accomplished in our program here at North Greenville, I think that's the most impressive thing, because it's really, really hard to host. The way they do Division II regional is totally different than Division I. It's not the best 56 teams nationally that get in. It's all based on your location and what region you're in. So we're in the Southeast region. There are 44 teams in our region, and only 2 teams host every year from that region. So you could have 8 teams. I think actually there are 7 or 8 teams from our region in the top 25 in the national polls right now. There are I think 5 or 6 of us from our region in the top 10 or the top 15. So those in Division I would be all hosts. The top 16 are going to host. So we would have 5 or 6 schools that would host if we were doing the Division I model. But because it's Division II, we're only going to have 2 teams from our region host. So it's really, really hard to host, and we've done it 6 years in a row. So maybe this year will be different. We'll do something different, go on the road, and not have to win it at home. Maybe we can dogpile on somebody else's field.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll be the case. Landon, I just have one more for you. I was referencing the accomplishments of the 2000 through 2004 era, which was the most winningest program in college baseball through 5 years. Then you can extrapolate that over a 15-year period. Program goes to the tournament 15 times, 6 Omahas, multiple SEC championships, 2 national championships. I know you're removed from it somewhat. You've got a job at hand, but it's still in your DNA. Gamecock baseball doesn't leave your DNA. As you watch, not just this year, but over X amount of years, you're not that far away from the epicenter that is Columbia and Gamecock baseball. What is your take on where the program has been? I know that's a difficult question to answer at this moment in time with the team struggling the way it is. So it's not a leading question. It's just a general question. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I don't know if I could put one word. I mean, I'm sad about it. I'm sad that it's at the state it is, because I think there's so many people, players, coaches, fans that took so much pride in that program and the building of that program. I mean, I was one of the players inside the walls that was helped building it, but Mike, you were there building it with us, and JB as a fan and covering it, you were building it. There's so many people that were invested in that program and what it became, and got to see it come from, kind of where it is right now, to seeing it get built to a national power that was, the envy in the SEC every year. Us and LSU, and I mean, that was kind of like it, right? You knew those teams were going to be at the end every year.
Yeah.
During our time, and now it's like, I mean, now every year the last several years, it's like, are they going to make the tournament? And that just doesn't seem like Carolina baseball to me. And I watched the game on Sunday, and the other thing that my wife was sitting right next to me, we were watching it. She goes, "Man, there's nobody there," and I was thinking the same thing. Like the stadium's empty a lot, and I remember playing at that Sarge. Man, if we had a weekend series, I mean, that place is going to be packed.
Yeah,
and it's hard to see it, that there's not as many fans going to the ballpark and watching the games, and winning cures a lot of things. And so Coach Tanner and what he did, and the amount of winning that he did, is what drove the fans to the ballpark and what got them inspired to come root on the team. So they got to figure it out some way, somehow. I got to start winning again. I mean, I still believe in the program. It's they have the best fan base in the country, and they care about baseball. They know baseball. You're in the Southeast with a place you definitely can recruit. Got great facilities and a great university. So I think they can turn it back around. It's just you gotta go get the right players. I mean, as a coach, I can tell you, there are coaches out there that know tremendous amounts about baseball. I mean, it's not an acumen issue. It's, you have to hit on the right recruits. You gotta get lucky and get a couple of the right guys, and that definitely plays into it. And I think, Coach Tanner and Coach Toman, they were getting a lot of the right guys that just not only had the talent, but had the grit, the determination, the it factor, the dog in them. And I just know that when I recruit, I look for those kind of things, and you don't always hit. Like, I've had some teams that I didn't have enough guys on the team that I felt like had that dog in them, or that were that it factor. And you got to have those guys to win. And, the teams that we were successful with at South Carolina had some of those guys. And like, I think of myself as that way. I don't think that maybe people back then thought of me that way, because I was a highly touted recruit and I was supposed to be a first round draft pick and all these things. But I looked at myself as a blue collar player, and, I didn't like the limelight very much. I kept my head down a lot when I played. I didn't interact with fans much when I played. I just, I kept my mask on and got back there behind the plate and did my job. And I tried to motivate my teammates, and I tried to come through in big situations. And I wanted to freaking win. And it didn't matter, like, the game's changing now, the NIL and the portal and the attention. And it's players are a little more concerned, I think, with their own marketability sometimes than they are with this team and this program and the fan base. Like, let's win it for these guys. So I don't know. When I think my teammates and I, we just had this, we were not going to lose mentality kind of about us. And we definitely didn't win it all, but we were always in the fight, it felt like.
Mm-hmm. Attitude, Coach Tanner told me one time, he said, Unfortunately, sometimes you got to have guys on your roster that keep you up at night, but those guys also win you ball games. You know, I think there's truth in that. I think there's a lot of truth in that.
Drew. I remember one time he said to me about Drew, or he might have. I'm sure he said it in front of Drew, but he said he loved the way Drew Meyer played baseball, and that he played hard and tough. The only problem is he also he lived the same way down at 5 Points on the weekends. Hard, he was hardened in the alleys just like he was hitting. So.
Yeah, well, it worked. Whatever it was, you weren't going to take him out of the lineup.
Have never been spoken. Drew didn't get cheated at the plate or at 5 Points.
No. That's right. He was gonna give it his all everywhere he was.
And he does that in every phase of life too. If you get Drew Meyer, you get all of them. Golf course. Last time I played golf with him, I was like, God, this guy hates losing.
I mean, he's one of the reasons we won. I mean, a guy like Drew. I mean, he was a super talented player, was a first-round draft pick, and but go watch the way he played. Like he never finished a game and his uniform not be covered in dirt. Like he was not going to be clean when that game was over.
The ground ball against Florida.
Oh, the play at the middle, unbelievable play.
That's as good of a play from a college shortstop as I've seen.
Yep, unbelievable play, and he was always. I loved having him at short, being able to back pick to him and stuff like that. Like me and him, I could just make eye contact with him and like barely nod my head, just like a little nod. And he knew I'm getting ready to back kick. And as the pitch was coming to the plate, he'd be on the dead sprint to second base, sneaking behind that runner. We did it all the time. It was just there was a lot of gamemanship from the guys on the field back then. And, we had a connection. Our team was very we were very close. We weren't all best friends, but on the baseball field, like we were definitely one heartbeat kind of a team. So, and that stuff matters, and it's all attributed to Tanner and Toman and how they ran the program and, how we competed every day in practice. And, it's not just a recruiting game. It's not just a fundraising game. There's so many things to coaching. And I think the way that Tanner ran his practices and the way he competed every single day with us. I mean, he threw BP, and if I got in there and hit BP one day and I wasn't like giving it my best, or if I wasn't really trying to drive the ball out of the ballpark, or I was going through the motions, he would stop BP and call me out and like make it competitive. And just having that edge all the time, like makes you comfortable when all of a sudden you're actually in the fire. It's like, oh, this is like. I'm in the fire every day of practice dealing with Coach Tanner. So what's the difference now in front of 20,000 fans? Like I'm already been here, done this.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I will say this. I think this is a misconception of Ray because people know Ray as the guy who's so media savvy, who was involved in charity. And overall, if you met him, he's a very nice and likable person. But any great coach that I've covered, he's got some SOB in him. And I would say that if Ray was on this show. I remember we were at Ole Miss, and Kevin Malillo, a guy who, as you mentioned, had a cup of coffee in the bigs, was a pretty damn good player, part of 3 Omaha teams. He didn't make a great effort at a ball. I want to say it was a ground ball up the middle. I can't remember 100%. It wound up costing the team a couple runs. Carolina loses the game. That night, Ray says, I want to do the pregame interview for tomorrow early. There might be rain or something. Let's just do it now. I go back to the hotel room, and he's talking about Malillo. Now, he loves Malillo, the player, but Kevin had some talent. But he basically just told me, I'm going to cut his ass if he doesn't play better tonight. And he knows it. Like, I'm not dealing with this. I don't need anybody big league and a ground ball out here. We're not that damn good, and he's not a good enough. Like, that's what Ray could do. He could scare the ever-living you-know-what's out of you if you didn't perform. So it's not about being all nice guy. Sometimes you got to be, and maybe, Landon, you know this, maybe you've had an experience with a few of your players. There's got to be a little a-hole in you from time to time. Am I right?
My players hate my guts right now. Trust me. Like we're going through it a little bit as a team right now. We've dropped some games lately that we shouldn't drop, and I'm on them. Like I am on them, and I'm as a coach. I mean, I'm still a younger coach. I mean, I've been doing this 10 years now, so I feel like I've got a lot of experience. But I'm only 42, you know. So I'm sitting here asking myself, like, am I being too hard on them? Do I need to back up a little bit? Like, do I need to ease up? And my nature is not to ease up. My nature is just to keep going hard, and the cream's going to rise to the top. The tough ones are going to make it, and I've been hard on him here lately. So I channel a lot of Ray Tanner in what I do. It's funny to me, like when I got drafted and went on to pro ball and started going back around South Carolina, or just talking to Coach Tanner on the phone, or listening to other guys that played for him. He definitely changed. He softened up a lot, and I think probably having kids and the generational change of new players coming in and how they're not maybe the same as the old players. Tanner was always good at adjusting to what he needed to do. That was why he was a good coach. I mean, he did that with the Bats when they won the national championship. I mean, he went from a guy that never bunted ever to leading the SEC in bunts or whatever they did. So he knew how to adjust to get the most out of his team. And when I was playing, I mean, he was tough on us. He was hard on us. It was old school, hard-nosed baseball coach, and we feared him. I loved him, but I feared him.
Right.
And
right.
I know that in later years when Roth and Jackie Bradley and some of those guys played for him, he was a little different to them than he was to us, and it worked for them as well. So coaches have to kind of be a chameleon. They have to know their team and know who and how to relate with each guy. And but yeah, my players are mad at me right now. I've been on them hard. I'm calling them soft. I'm challenging them every day. I'm telling them they don't have what it takes, and they're the only reason I'm doing those things because I do believe they have what it takes, and I got to figure out how to get it out of them. They don't know what I know. They haven't seen what I've seen. They haven't been around as long as I've been around. They don't realize how capable they are. A lot of these kids, especially you're dealing with 19, 20-year-olds, like they're just figuring out whether or not they are a stud or not. They're figuring out whether they should be secure or insecure. I mean, it's not only in baseball but out of baseball. I mean, they're dealing with a lot in life right now, and my goal is to teach them that they actually can be a badass if they want to be, and they can be a stud. They can get that hit in a big situation. It doesn't matter. You can't fear failure if you're ever going to succeed. And I think there's kids out there that fear failing in a big situation, and there's kids that get in a big situation and they think this is my opportunity. Like I've been waiting for this opportunity right here. And that's who you have to find in recruiting right there. You have to find the kids that are not scared of failure in a big opportunity, but they are dying for that opportunity so that they can succeed. And I mean, that was how I was. I get in a big situation. Was I nervous? Yes. Was I excited? Yes. Because to me, it was like, this is an opportunity to make something big, and to, that's how you win. So, I hope South Carolina can turn it around and find the mojo. And I think a lot of it starts with just getting the best players, and the SEC is full of stud players on every roster. So how are we going to get those guys? And Tanner was a great coach, but Tanner also had Drew Meyer and Jerome Peters and David Marchbanks, and he had All-Americans at a lot of positions, Brian Busher, and go on and on. So it's the X's and O's matter, but those Jimmies and Joes usually don't let you down.
There's no question about that. They need a lot of that. You've got Jimmies and Joes, and you got a chance to win a national championship again, Landon. We're going to be following along here in the postseason as y'all find out where you're going on Sunday. And then we'll give everybody details next week how folks can watch those games or maybe go see them if you're in that area and stuff like that too. But it's always great to catch up with you. We love having you here, and maybe we can get you on right before y'all play for the World Series here in the next couple of weeks. How's that sound?
I'd love to. Hopefully we can get hot. We got the pitching. Our pitching and defense is really good. We have a couple starters that were all conference. We had the conference freshman of the year again. We've had the conference freshman of the year now, I think 6 times in my 10 years coaching. So, a lot of the people out there that think that I do what I do just getting transfers, they don't understand. I mean, we've been bringing in the best freshmen. And the one we have now was 5A state pitcher of the year in South Carolina, Matty Brown from West Ashley High School in Charleston. He was 5A pitcher of the year in South Carolina, and, somehow fell through the cracks to me. And he's come down here and had a great freshman year, and he's like 10-0 or something with like a 2 ERA. And He threw a complete game in our first game in the conference tournament. He's a stud. So we got some really good arms. If we can go score 5 or 6 runs a game, I think we could make it to a World Series. So that's my goal the next 8 or 9 days is get our offense locked in and get us scoring. And I believe in what we got. So we'll see what happens.
It's an offense that's hitting 320 on the season collectively this year with 69 home runs. Yeah.
Struggling.
Yeah, you got to be up around 350, Landon.
We're struggling.
You know,
we were. I put a post out like late March or something like that on Twitter, and I jinxed us, I guess. But I think at the time we were hitting like right at 330, and we were top 10 in the country in almost every offensive category. I think we were first in the country in runs, which is last I checked the goal of the game.
That's the number. Yeah.
So if you got the most of those, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And I put that out, and then we have just our offense has just really struggled to get consistent since then. I mean, we'll go score 15 one game and then 2 the next, and it's just like, who are we? I got a bunch of buddies that are former athletes, college athletes. One of them's a college basketball coach, and we were on a text thread. We text all the time, and I was texting how I don't like my offense. I was like, we're not hitting. I don't like the offense right now. We're not hitting. And then like 10 minutes later, he sent a text to the thread. It's like, this jerk, look at he's saying he can't hit. Look at his team. They're hitting 330. They're first in the country in runs. I'm like, well, I mean, just trust me, all right? I'm telling you, we're not hitting. And then here we are the last 10 games we have struggled offensively. But we can pitch and play defense, so we're in every game. And we have, I think, 12 losses on the season. We're 43 and 12 or 44 and 12 or something like that. And we have 8 losses. 8 losses by 1 run. So of our 12 or 13 losses, we have 8 by 1 run. So we are a good team. We just haven't been able to win the 1-run game, and I'm hoping we hit a couple more homers here in the postseason and make that. Let's just win a bunch of games by 6 or 7 runs and not by 1 run.
Right. Make this easy. Yeah.
Be ready. Be better for my blood pressure. So.
That's right. Yeah. Let's get to the 9th to be comfortable, gentlemen. Where's our closer? He needs to be asleep down there. We don't need to call him at the end of these things. Well, man, we can't wait. Really can't wait to follow along here. Great to see you. And all the best to Allie and the kids and your family and your staff. And
what's Mike's under Mike's name? It says Landon Powell owns Cliff Hagan Stadium. What's that about?
Oh, you caught it. Thank you. Do you remember? I can't remember what year it was. I want to say 04. We're out there, Cliff Hagan Stadium, as Jamie and I have often joked. I mean, that was like a prison yard venue. It was hardly an SEC caliber stadium. But you hit 3 home runs in your first 3 at bats. So yeah. TP and I are like, well, TP already had the him. Tom Price had he had it memorized. So every Gamecock that ever hit 3 and a chance to make history.
The previous one before that would have been Brian Jeffco
against Clemson.
He hit 3 against Clemson
at Kingsmore.
My freshman year.
That's right. I was there. So then I'm all excited that and you could tell you were going to get 5-6 ABs in this game. This was not going to be like a 3-2 type of game. So I'm thinking we got a chance to see history here. I almost got a chance to call a Kip Balknight no-hitter. And damn it, I wish you guys never pitched to Chris Burke. I still give Berkey a tough time because he broke it up in the 9th. And then almost got to call a Landon Powell 4 home run game, which I've never done at any level. I saw Bob Horner 4 in person at Fulton County for the Braves. And then I think they hit you.
All right, so JB, you got 1 minute for that story?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so I'll give you the good story. All right, so we had mentioned earlier, my dad. I love my dad. I'm sure he'll listen to this and probably get mad at me, but I'm gonna tell it like it is, Dad, and I love you. So my dad was a coach, high school coach, Legion coach. He's in the Legion Hall of Fame. He's a great coach, and that's what helped me become a good player. But he was very tough on me, as Mike will attest to.
Oh yeah.
He was very tough on me, and he would be in the crowd, and I could hear him from the crowd. He'd let me know it. But we're down in Athens, and on Friday night I went 5 for 5 with a homer, and had a great game, and we won the game Friday night. So we go out, everybody's happy, we're all having a good time. Dinner with him and my grandparents and my girlfriend, Allison, my wife. She was there with us. So then we go to Saturday's game, and in Saturday's game I go 0 for 4. I think with the hat trick. I think I struck out 3 times. And so after the game, my dad was so mad at me. He wouldn't even look at me. he was, and so we all decided to go to some pizza restaurant there in Athens, and we're all sitting down in there, and my dad's just in a bad mood. He's so unhappy with me, and I think the draft's coming up, and there's a lot of things, and so there's some stress. But he's like, "Why'd you take that 2-0 fastball? Or why did you take that 0-0 hanger? Like, that's a pitch you should crush." And he was just questioning me about my hitting, and I was already in a bad mood because I had a bad game, and I think I said something. I said, "Listen, I know more about hitting than you do. Leave me alone," or something like that, which was not the right thing to say. And so he gets up and walks out, and my mom's like, "He'll be fine. Just let him cool off." And I'm like, "Well, I don't understand why he's always got to give me hitting advice. Just leave me alone." Blah blah blah. Fathers and sons at that age. So we finish eating. He never comes back in the restaurant. We finish eating, and my grandparents pay, and we walk out to the parking lot. And my dad had driven down in a van, and all my grandparents, my mom, and my girlfriend had all ridden with him. And we get out of the parking lot, and we're looking for the van, and there's no van. It's gone. And we're like, did he leave? So my mom's calling him on the phone, I guess. Well, it turns out he was upset. He was mad at me, and he left. He took the van and drove back to North Carolina. And he left my mom and my grandparents and everybody in Athens with no car. So he pieced. He was that mad at me. And so the next day was that Sunday game at Georgia. Is my last SEC regular season game. And it's the first game in my entire career that my dad wasn't there for. He had been to every game my whole career. He came to Wednesday night games against Wofford. He came to LSU. It didn't matter. He was at every game. And so for the first time in my entire career, he did not come to a game that I played in college. And that was Sunday against Georgia. My first at bat, I'm hitting, I think, left-handed, and I hit a homer. And then my next at bat, and I think even a couple of my teammates in the dugout were kind of joking with me because they knew my dad wasn't there. And so it was you couldn't hear him yelling in the stands and stuff like that, which he was, it's not like he yelled bad stuff all the time. He was a great fan. He knew the things to say a lot of times. He was really good at heckling umpires. But I hit a home run my first at bat. Then my second at bat, they put a lefty in, so they turned me around. I think I'm hitting right-handed my second at bat, and I hit a homer right-handed. And then I come up my third at bat, and they turn me back around. I'm hitting left-handed again, and I hit another homer. So now I'm 3 for 3 with 3 homers, 2 left-handed, 1 right-handed. And I'm realizing, maybe, when your dad's hard on you all the time, you always kind of feel that pressure, I got to do good with him here. And that day, for whatever reason, I knew he wasn't there, and I was kind of playing, carefree maybe, or I just don't, whatever. And I was just letting it rip. And so I had 3 homers on first 3 bats. I get up my fourth at bat, and, I'm the ball looks like a beach ball. And they throw the first pitch right down the middle to me. And I hit one 400 feet, 10 feet foul, up by that house that used to sit down the right field line, that house up on the hill. I hit one up in that. I hit one up in that yard, foul. And I hit it farther than the other 3 homers I hit, but I just hit it. I just yanked it foul. And immediately Perno, who I think was the head coach at Georgia at that time, he steps, hey, he starts waving. Hey, put him on. And they intentionally walked me.
Yep.
And then and I got up one more time, and they intentionally walked me my last at bat. So I ended the game 3 for 3 with 2 intentional walks, and I almost hit a 4th homer my 4th at bat. I just hit it foul. So that was the only game my dad never came to in my college career.
Wow, I did not know that aspect of the story. That's amazing.
And I never missed a game after that, did he?
Oh gosh, he was everywhere. And you're right. I could hear. I knew your dad's voice. So when your dad was yelling, I said, "That's Mr. Powell." I mean, I knew it was almost always first base side, and he was letting umpires have it, and sometimes he'd let you have it. The other one I was thinking of at Kentucky, you hit a ball I still don't think has landed. You were hitting lefty, you pulled it over the porch and right, and onto the practice football fields back when their stadium was there. I don't know if that was the farthest ball you ever hit, but it had to be one of them because that thing was absolutely clobbered.
I remember when I think Kentucky, I think Joe Blanton, who was who I played
first
with
rounder.
him in the first round. I played with him in the big leagues, but Joe was dominating the SEC that year. We go play at Kentucky, and Toman, all he kept talking about was boys, just go ahead and just go up and chalk up a loss for Friday. We're not winning Friday. You can't hit this pitcher. No one's touched him all year. Like y'all got 0 shot against this guy. And he was like, just ribbing us the whole week. And we
First
go
pitch,
play
Drew
them.
Meyer.
First pitch of the game, Drew Meyer hits a bomb, way out. And we were like, oh, and we put it on him. I think we knocked Blanton out in like the 3rd inning or something like that. So, yeah, that's what I remember when I think about Kentucky. I don't know the farthest ball. So, in about 10 minutes here, Daniel Bard's getting ready to come throw on the field here at North Greenville. He's rehabbing his arm, trying to get back to the big leagues.
Is he really?
Yeah,
wow.
he's making one more comeback. He was already like Major League Comeback Player of the Year, but he's actually out there throwing right now. I see him, and him and a guy named David Hess, who was a starting pitcher for the Orioles in the big leagues. They're both rehabbing, trying to get back in the game. And so I have to remind Bard sometimes. I hit 2 homers in a regional or super regional against UNC. Yep. One of them against Bard and one of them against Andrew Miller.
2 first-rounders.
The one against Miller was way back. I mean, it was way back. It was on the softball field at South Carolina.
Yeah.
It was a way back one. So that one went real far. And then the other one that I remember that was a bomb was I hit one off of Luke Hochinger at South Carolina.
Tennessee.
And they say that one went on the railroad tracks, but I mean, that's a long ways back there. So I'd have a hard time believing that maybe. But the reason those are the farthest ones against those guys is because they all threw 95.
Sure.
Yeah.
So when you face a guy throwing 95 and you square it up, like it's just going to go a long ways. So
the one that you hit on the softball field, I was at that game. Obviously, Mike was calling the game, so I remember. There's a video of that somewhere on YouTube. You can find that I remember when you hit the ball. And if you watch the video, you'll see at the very end of it, there was a guy. You remember how people used to stand up on the top of the softball field?
The top of the softball fields, yeah.
And watch. Yeah, there was a guy who was up there watching the game, and the ball went over his head. So it landed out by the pitcher's mound on the softball field. The ball, and what a lot of people don't realize is behind that left field wall, there used to be the cages, and you had that net to protect the softball field. That went over all that.
Yeah,
and so it went on to the softball field. But the guy, I would love to. Maybe this guy watches. Maybe he'll call us. The guy who it went over his head, and he fell down the steps trying to go get the ball. And remember, those were concrete.
Yeah,
that was a concrete stadium. I don't know if the guy was okay, but he turned around to go get it, and then he just saw it fall out. He was gone,
disappear.
He did. So I don't. You might have injured this cat. I'm not sure, but that ball had to go 450 feet. I mean, it was.
Yeah, that was one of the longer ones. I had a little more power right-handed, so when I got a hold of one right-handed, it usually went a little farther. But it helped that Andrew Miller was throwing that. It was probably a 96-mile-per-hour fastball, so that probably helped.
Yeah.
So,
how good a hitter was Steve Pearce?
He was awesome. I mean, he was a great hitter. I still keep up with Pearce. We talk a good bit. Not that often, but we'll shoot a text back and forth here and there. But he was a great hitter. The thing I loved about Pearce as a hitter is me and him could not have been more opposite. Right. I was a very intellectual hitter. I was up there guessing pitches and thinking about how this guy pitched me last at bat and how he set me up. Pearce was just the opposite of that. I mean, I batted fourth, he batted third, so he'd be on the on-deck circle all the time, and I'd be in the hole, sitting there, and he'd be looking up in the crowd, hey, you waiting? Hey, what's up? Yeah, not even watching the pitcher, could care less what the pitcher's throwing, and then the hitter, Malillo would get out. I'm like, hey, Pearce, hey, you're up. He's like, oh yeah, and he'd go up to the box, and then he'd just swing first pitch and hit a homer, and it's come back to the dugout. I'm like, hey, what pitch was that? He's like, well, I don't know what that was. I'm like, was that a slider or a fastball? He goes, I don't know. He was just he was a natural born hitter. He could just see ball, hit ball. And some of the best hitters I've ever played with are like that. They don't think, and some of the guys that are really smart, they overthink and they get themselves out. Hitting is a very hard thing to do, and it's a very mental thing to do. So if you don't really think too much into it, you can have more success sometimes. And Steve Pearce is a good example of that. Now, I'm sure when he got to professional baseball and became the professional hitter he did, I'm sure he had a way higher intellectual a game in the box and a good approach. But back in college, I mean, he was just see ball, hit ball.
I don't remember who told me this story. It might have been Andrew Cruz. I'm not sure, but I remember hearing about it at South Carolina that he got when he got drafted by the Pirates. He got the call. He was floating on the river in Columbia. I don't know if you know this or not, or if either one of you know this story, but he was apparently floating on the river. And of course, back then we had flip phones, right? So, hello, Steve, this is so-and-so from the Pirates. We've selected you. And that I can't remember what round he went in now of the Major League Baseball draft. Congratulations. And his response was, congratulations to you. You just got the steal of the draft. and then that was pretty much it. He was like, I'm on the river. I'll have to call you back, and hung up the phone. And I thought,
JUCO Bandit, man. Those JUCO Bandits, they were cut from a different cloth. He was a good one, though.
Oh, yeah.
Tire World.
Not
That's
a lot going
on
on between here, but he could hit it.
Every road trip, he would bring 3 movies: Major League 1, Major League 2, and Major League 3. He would laugh hysterically at every movie as if he saw it the first time. And the few times that we got to fly, because we were the kings of the long bus ride. These kids now are pampered, Landon. They take charter flights, for crying out loud. They don't know 10-hour bus rides. But he was the kid. Well, we'd get on an airplane, and we'd fly commercial most of the time. But there'd be a flight attendant, and, they're giving the instructions, and it's serious to them. We get it, the seatbelt, the seats need to be upright, but for them, it's very serious. You get FAA regulations, and at the most awkward times, you would hear there's Steve Pearce in row 34, seat B, when it was the most quiet moment in the middle of the instructions. He would just go, "Tire World," which is the impersonation of Lou Brown of Major League. And the whole team would just crack up laughing. But for Steve Pearce, that was high-level comedy. Was just to read that.
That was normal
to say that.
Yeah,
man, isn't it a shame they don't take bus rides anymore? I mean, I feel like I've been on a bus all year this year with my team. I think we only played 19 home games this year. We played 30-something road games.
31. I saw that. That's crazy.
And a poor scheduling by the head coach for sure.
Yeah.
But
challenge.
Man, it's just something about a bus ride with your team. It's like such a camaraderie builder, and I think about our bus rides at South Carolina. Those are some of my favorite moments. I mean, I love playing and dogpiling and some of those things, but man, those bus rides are really where the memories happen. And you got a bunch of guys in the back of the bus playing AC Doocy or Follow the Queen, stuff like that with $1 bills and stopping at J&S cafeterias or whatever Coach Tanner always liked to stop at, those horrible cafeterias that he would make us eat lunches at.
I'm surprised you guys were able to survive with malnutrition with the crap that everybody ate on the road.
Oh man, I mean, it's hard. I mean, I understand now as a coach, it's hard to take 40 people to go eat somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, where do you take them and sit down and actually get a meal in a timely manner and get out of there? So he would always take us to the cafeterias, wherever, like those J&S kind of places, and we would all complain as soon as we pulled the bus off the road. Like, as soon as we saw where we're going, everybody on the bus would just start complaining.
Dude,
not another cafeteria. Are you kidding me?
When I was in JUCO, we got $7 a meal, and everything we went to was like Denny's or Ryan's. $7.
That's D2 life. That's what we're doing now. I mean, that's the D2 world we're living in right now. These guys, now it's like $10 a meal that they get at D2, and you can barely get something at McDonald's for $10.
No, you can't.
These SEC boys are living a different life. I mean, they're eating
life.
Steak and lobster after every game. They got smoothies made for them in the third inning, and I had Brainerd Cooper giving me an ammonia towel. I thought I was a king at the time, getting ammonia towels in between innings. These guys are getting smoothies handmade for them,
right? No pitching lab at the Sarge. Is that what you're saying, Landon? No.
Yeah, no. We had the pit. We had the pit that Coach Tobin used to abuse us with baseballs.
Mm-hmm.
We'd take all the waterlogged baseballs and we'd throw them down in the catcher's pit, and he'd turn on a machine throwing 120 and just shoot them and try to hurt us the whole time.
Yeah.
And just yell at us if we didn't block it right. And you take a waterlogged baseball off the collarbone. That was a Monday. That was a Monday afternoon. So
Dude.
Different era of baseball back then, and I loved it. I wouldn't change a thing about my career, about my coaching staffs that coached me, about my teammates. I loved every second of it, and I I love the garnet and black. I don't spend much time in Columbia anymore. I spend it all up here in Greenville, and I love coaching still, but I will always be a Gamecock, and I will always bleed garnet. So
that's what we call a mic drop. Landon,
that's right.
That's awesome. Hey, really thank you for the kind words at the beginning, and I hope you and I can actually, I know you and Jamie have had the opportunity to do so, but if you're ever in Atlanta for some reason, maybe recruiting a kid, let me know, and I'll certainly let you know next time I'm in Greenville.
For sure. It was a good surprise, JB, to get on here and see Mike Morgan. I appreciate you doing that for me. I love seeing Mike. And
right back at you.
You're a true pro, Mike, so we'll see you around.
No, I appreciate it, Landon. Thank you much. Congrats and good luck the rest of the way.
Yeah, go get them. We can't wait to see where y'all end up. We'll be watching on Sunday. And congratulations, Landon.
All right, appreciate you guys. Y'all have a great one.
Thanks, bud.
See you, man.
There you go. You're good when you go by just your initials, LP.
Yes.
Landon Powell, who, in my humble opinion, and that of thousands more, is the greatest ever put the gear on at South Carolina. And
I wouldn't argue with you one bit. Thank you for setting that up, by the way. That was a pleasant surprise when I woke up and saw your rundown.
Well, we were trying to get
beyond.
We were trying to do it last week in front of the Conference Carolinas tournament, and it just didn't work. And he said, "Well, I do Monday or Tuesday." Good thing he wasn't on a Monday. So, anyways, we'll get him back. We used to do Landon about 2 or 3 times a year. This year's twice. That's about right. Yeah. I don't know. Well, I always enjoy talking to him because he knows what he's talking about. I like the guys that know what they're talking about. So,
no, one of the most cerebral is the word that a lot of folks in our profession like to use.
You think about that era; it went from Bordenick to Brandon Pack. And then Whitaker got his senior year in 2001, and then Landon takes over. It was like, every one of those guys were All-Americans.
Yeah.
Literally, there's 4 straight All-Americans behind the plate for South Carolina at some point in time in their careers. And I know Vanderhook took over in 05, or he was one of them.
Yeah, it was a platoon. Him and Paxton?
Him and Paxton. And that was, Ian hit it well. Hook was okay behind the plate. He didn't swing it well. And then Trent, that was when I was coming along. And then Twinkle Toes, Phil Disher.
The Aiken Bomber. But you think about it, so that lineage of catchers, how about the lineage of shortstops?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Third baseman. And
Everett to Roberts
baseman.
To Drew Meyer. First round.
Yeah.
Landon mentioned the closers.
Yeah.
Every time you looked up, a Gamecock closer was leading the SEC in saves, right?
Yeah, so like 4 straight All-Americans. Gronk.
Yeah.
Blake.
Chad Blackwell. Chad Blackwell was only 1 year, but damn, nobody could hit that kid.
Yeah, Chad, but Chad was 04.
Correct.
Who am I missing?
In what, 03?
In 03.
Well, Blake was still around in 03, wasn't he? Was he not?
No, 02 was Blake's last year.
No, he was 01, 02.
I don't know. I feel like Rawl actually closed a lot of games in 03, and then Blackwell took over in 04. That's what it was. Remember, Rawl got a lot of save opportunities that year.
But
he wasn't a closer.
There was somebody else who was actually the closer. I can't. It's not coming to me right now. But you get the idea. And this, not to go full circle, but they had dudes. Of course, then you talk about the back-to-back World Series. Pro. Had a lot of dudes. A lot of great players that were recruited into the program and need to be recruited again into the program. And now, of course, you didn't have a portal back then, but you got one. Really enjoyed this, Jamie.
You did have a portal back then. It was called JUCO.
Yeah, well, yeah. And Jim Toman, if you could play ball and you were doing Florida or California JUCO, Jim Toman knew about you before anybody else did, and 9 times out of 10, if he wanted you, they got him.
It's like
I don't know how he did it. He did it on a shoestring 11.7 budget.
Yeah, it's
and
like
they had an outdated stadium, and but they just convinced kids to come.
That night he got thrown out against Georgia, or I don't think it was against Georgia. I don't know who it was. When he covered home plate and all the dirt, I said, "What did you do after that? Did Coach Tanner put you in timeout?" He said, No, big guy. I wasn't going to have to deal with Ray after that ball game. I got on the road and went recruiting.
That's right.
I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I drove overnight. Went and watched the kid play.
He had a gift. I mean, he was like the Moneyball guy. Tolman just knew how to recruit on that budget. He had the calculus figured out, and nobody did it better for that time when he was around. Yeah. And then Chad Holbrook was already a great recruiter when he came too. So you had back-to-back just recruiting elites.
Yeah.
You know, in Tolman and Chad. I can do this all day, Jamie. You better cut me off, because I can go down this this deep dive into memory lane, and honestly, it brings a smile to my face because there's just so many great memories and great people. So I didn't know that JC wasn't on today. I was worried about our time.
No,
now that I know we're not.
I got the news right before the show, so we're okay. All right going over. But Phil was very, very sick. So he's been
and I can tell Phil gets the Iron Man award. He's been busting it here today. Hopefully Phil will be with us tomorrow. Josh Pate will join us on JC and Morgan tomorrow morning.
Oh, wonderful.
So I think he's scheduled for 9. Let's see. We've been texting back and forth. 9:30 Central, so 10:30 Eastern. We'll be on before then. If you want to hear JC and I chop some stuff up too, but Josh Pate will be on at 10:30 Eastern.
We didn't get to a driver on the SEC today, so feel free to jump back in anytime this week. And
that might happen. We might see if we can sneak in a Thursday or something. A little Love Chevy drive on Thursday. I'll let you know about that. Going to see the Braves tonight, Braves and Reds. All of a sudden, Atlanta's playing a little better baseball. I know they got a ton of Braves fans out there. It's a long season, folks. 162. And there's still that Acuna and Strider cat waiting to play.
Yeah, exactly. They'll be fine. They're going to win the World Series.
Well,
all right. That's my pick.
Well,
let me believe.
But let's just get in.
Just going to believe.
Just get a wild card and get in there somehow, some way. Jamie, always enjoy it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We're powered by Electric Bikes of Charleston. ElectricBikesCharleston.com. Thanks to Mad Dog and Landon Powell for joining us in the Golden Tones. See you tomorrow right here on The Morning Show.
I said, oh, Lord Jesus, it's a fire. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Disaster comes uninformed. During and after natural disasters or accidents, there can be a heavy loss to property. It can become extremely difficult to bounce back to what you knew before. Having your home or office destroyed or damaged by water, fire, smoke, or mold affects your personal and business lifestyle. Resto Pros of the Midlands is here to help. Open 24/7. Call them when you need them. 803-493-0170.
Set up a screen, and it goes to Brewer. 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Brewer. His second of the day. Pitches it to Brewer. Turns the corner. Touchdown, number 3 of the afternoon.
Hey, folks, it's Mike Morgan for Ryan Brewer Fence. That's right. You know the former Gamecock legend as a terrific college football player. Well, I know him as that, too. I also know him as the guy that runs a great business, one of the best businesses in South Carolina. How do I know that? Well, for one, I'm actually a client of Ryan's. I had my home in Columbia done years ago, and his crew did an outstanding job, just as he does for everybody else. Whether you're in the market for a fence, railings, columns, or anything in between, their craftsmanship, their experience, and service, second to none. Ryan Brewer Fence has over 15 years of experience with consultation and installation of residential and commercial fencing and railings. Rest assured your job will be done with an unparalleled level of expertise, and it's done on time, and they do it right the first time. Again, you're not going to do any better than Ryan Brewer Fence. The website is ryanbrewer.net. Set up an appointment today. Tell them Mike sent you.